Met infielder Buddy Harrelson has managed the Mets to the best record in baseball. Current Met infielder Greg Jeffries hitting .300 is a big reason why. Joe Torre, once a Met manager, has now taken over in St. Louis, where the Cardinals continue to struggle despite hot-hitting Willie McGee. Proud rivalries, instant heroes. Is it the spirit of Bobby Thompson helping the Giants back into the pennant race? New stars have proven giant game winners this week. Today, the Giants meet the Dodgers, who are led by Eddie Murray and Cal Daniels as the rivalry resumes. Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built, that George has lived in for 17 years. Now, Commissioner Fay Vincent has ended the Steinbrenner era. Will George's son take over? An update today. Major League Baseball is next on CBS Sports. Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Welcome to another Saturday of Major League Baseball here on CBS. This afternoon, some of you will see the Cardinals playing host to the Mets in St. Louis, where there is a 30% chance of rain. That might dampen the spirits of the St. Louis hitters. They have to face Mets ace Dwight Gooden today. Others will watch the Dodgers play the surging Giants at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. San Francisco was pulled to within 4.5 games of the once uncatchable Reds in the National League West. First, there is one game in the American League already underway, that one taking place at Fenway Park in Boston, where the Tigers and the Red Sox are tied 1-1, and that game is now in the 6th inning. Once again, it was Friday night madness for Major League pitching. Let's first take you to Philadelphia, where Pittsburgh's Doug Drabek had a no-hitter, 3-2, 2 out in the 9th inning, got a fastball up to Sil Campusano, who drove it into right center field and ruined what would have been a record 8th no-hitter. In Major League Baseball this season, he settled for the one-hitter, Pittsburgh winning it 11-0. The other flirtation with no-hit fame came at Yankee Stadium in New York last night. Cleveland pitcher Tom Candiotti took a no-hitter into the 8th inning, and with 2 out in the 8th, the base hit by Oscar Azocar just out of Jerry Brown's dive eliminated Candiotti from the game. Mel Hall hit a 3-run homer to bring the Yankees from behind, and the Yankees beat Cleveland by a score of 6-4. One more baseball note. Picture Dale Murphy in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform beginning today. Murphy has played his entire 13-year career for the Atlanta Braves. He was traded last night. When we come back, our interview with Baseball Commissioner Fay Vincent, and we will talk live with 2 of George Steinbrenner's partners with the New York Yankees.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's pregame is brought to you by Advil, advanced medicine for pain, and by Thompson's Water Seal Exterior Stain, beauty that lasts at last.
Steinbrenner was out of baseball, but as details became known of the agreement between the Yankee owner and Baseball Commissioner Fay Vincent, new questions were raised. Earlier today, our Jim Gray spoke with the commissioner in Cooperstown and began by asking him why he thinks Steinbrenner lobbied for what many felt was the harsher sentence from his office.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with his personal situation, his interest in the Olympics. I think he hopes that he'll be able to continue with the Olympics. And recognition that it was time to resolve this matter. I think it's a perfectly fine agreement for baseball, and I don't really have to worry much about why it was done by Mr. Steinbrenner.
Commissioner, with the letter that George Steinbrenner or Steinbrenner's lawyers have sent out to the limited partners, there's a growing impression that George is already trying to wiggle his way out of this thing.
No, I don't believe that. I think it was more likely imprecise language and not terrific legal work. I will get it straightened out.
Mr. Commissioner, how are you going to police this thing? I mean, if Hank does get elected and George and Hank are at dinner and George says, pass the potatoes and get rid of Mattingly, how are you going to police that?
Well, you know, I worked at the SEC, and suppose a chief executive of a company at dinner told his son to go out and buy the stock. The SEC polices that all the time. That's a criminal act. People have been prosecuted for that. It's happened at dinner. It's happened at Thanksgiving. I think probably one of the problems is, if you'll excuse me, people don't realize that significant events occur legally at dinner or at Thanksgiving or on occasions when the ordinary layman might not realize it. We will police it, and it will be enforced.
Isn't it hard to do that, though? I mean, if
well,
in fact...
it's no harder for us than it is for the SEC, and I think they do it pretty well. Fact is that people who are doing something wrong or who are cheating inevitably leave footprints. It's not just a conversation. They go and do something, or they talk about it, or they write about it. It is not difficult to enforce. I mean, the terms are very clear. The agreement is not contingent on his son being elected. Baseball will approve or disapprove his son's application, and I would say it's a significant hurdle.
CBS Sports has learned that earlier this week, George Steinbrenner approached Tom Seaver, who is now a New York Yankee broadcaster, discussing with him a front office job with complete control over the entire baseball operation of the Yankees. Seaver has indicated that he would be interested in such a job. On Wednesday, the minority owners in the Yankee partnership are expected to vote on Steinbrenner's proposal to give control of the team to his son, Hank. Well, joining us now, two of those owners, Michael Friedman in Cleveland and Edward Rosenthal in Dewey Beach, Delaware. Gentlemen, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. Let me first ask you about reports of a letter having gone out earlier this week asking owners, of all of the partners, to ratify George Steinbrenner for business powers akin to a general partner. Did it or did it not come from George Steinbrenner? And your thoughts on it. Ed, how about you first?
Well, first of all, I think it came from our partner and lawyer, Mr. McCarthy. I'm not really privy to the language in this thing that was sent to Mickey and myself and the other owners. But we'll leave it up to Mr. Vincent and the legal department to decide whether this is something for them to handle or something for the partners to handle. How
about you, Mickey? What were your thoughts?
Well, my understanding of it was this was a proxy sent out to all the limited partners. After reviewing it, Eddie and I decided we definitely are 100% in favor of having Hank as the general partner. We signed the proxy and sent it back. The ratification of this vote is due to come, as you mentioned, Wednesday in Cleveland.
Mickey, let me ask you, are you convinced absolutely that it will be Hank Steinbrenner?
Oh, there's no question about it. Our understanding is that he already has received over 80% ratification, and Ed and I and the rest of the partners are working towards making that unanimous by Wednesday.
Ed, I had a conversation over the telephone with George last night, and as he has been doing regularly since all of this came down, he declined to join us, but he said it's been rough. Have you had any conversations with him, and how rough do you think it's been on him?
Well, you know, anytime there's a controversy of this magnitude for George, I'm sure it's rough, but I'm sure George can handle it. I have had no communication with George since Mr. Vincent's decision, but making Hank, or asking Hank by his father to become managing partner, I don't think Hank would take it unless he thought he would have full control and no interference from his dad. And I think his dad knows the ramifications if this takes place or transpires. So we're really looking forward to Hank taking over. He's a wonderful young man, very intelligent. I think he's matured a lot. He's not in his 20s, and he's 33 years old, and I think a guy, you know, when he becomes 33 years old, has enough maturity and business acumen to run a baseball team. George took over the Yankees not knowing that much about baseball, and he did a hell of a job. We got we won four league titles, and we won 2 World Series titles. And we've fallen on hard times in the last few years, but I think with a lot of these young ball players starting to produce, I think the Yankees are on their way back to the top.
Ed Rosenthal, Mickey Friedman. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
Stay tuned. When we come back, a look at this day in baseball history. Tom Seaver won his 300th Major League game. Rod Carew knocked out his 3,000th Major League hit. We are ready for baseball. I'll be back throughout the afternoon with scores and highlights. CBS Sports coverage of Major League Baseball will continue after this word from your local station.
To the West has welcomed back an old Cardinal to St. Louis this week. Now the task of drawing up a winner falls in the hands of Joe Torre. 2 months ago, the New York Mets handed the reins to Bud Harrelson, who has watched Darryl Strawberry put up the numbers that have New York back on top in the National League East. Today, the Cardinals host the Mets as CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Welcome to Busch Stadium in St. Louis. We had some morning showers and the rain dissipated, but we have a slight drizzle right now, but we expect this game to get underway. The New York Mets have a one-game lead over the Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League East, and the Cardinals bring up the rear in the division. An unusual spot for the Cardinals indeed. And good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton, along with my partner Jim Kaat. And of course, the Mets really on a roll now. They had 2 dramatic come-from-behind wins in the last week, including last night when they scored 3 runs to win. A big difference since Bud Harrelson has taken over the helm.
Well, anytime you change managers, you change the atmosphere in the clubhouse, and that's what's happened in the Mets clubhouse. And they've responded. They've started to play better baseball, and of course, they're pitching. Doc Gooden going today, longest winning streak in the National League, 8 in a row. Getting his curveball and off-speed pitches over better than he ever has. And one thing you forget about with the Mets, yes, they have great starting pitching, but they score a lot of runs. They've got to score about 5 runs a game to win, and they do it.
Despite that deep and solid pitching staff. Now, the big story in St. Louis, of course, Joe Torre, the new manager of the Cardinals, and everyone seems to think there'll be a big house cleaning with all of the free agents now. May not be back, but maybe it'll be a different scene with Torre here now.
Well, I don't think Joe Torre took over this ball club to rebuild. Joe Torre wants to win, and I think he's going to get together with his buddy Dal Maxville and say, hey, let's sign some of these guys and go after it next year.
Dwight Gooden will be pitching for the Mets, and it'll be Ken Hill, a young right-hander working for the Cardinals, back with the starting lineups in just a moment.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Today's Chevrolet, who invite you to see why nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America. B.F. Goodrich TA Tires, the athletic shoes for your car. And by new Bud Dry, cold filtered for smooth draft taste and dry brewed for no aftertaste.
Back in St. Louis, and the rain is just about stopped. Here's Ken Hill, who is still warming up in the bullpen, 24-year-old right-hander from Lynn, Massachusetts, getting the call. Joe McGrain was supposed to pitch last night. Came up with back spasms, and now he's been pushed back till Monday. So Ken Hill will be working this game, and Jose De Leon on short notice worked last night in a starting role for the Cardinals. And Dwight Gooden, who will be on the mound for the Mets, going for his 9th straight victory. Here's how the Cardinals, Jim, will defend the Mets in the field.
Yeah, a couple of new names out there. Rex Hudler is going to play left field, replacing the injured Vince Coleman. And then Willie McGee in center field. Tough year in the field this year for Willie, 14 errors. Milt Thompson is over in right field. And on the infield, also having trouble defensively, Terry Pendleton. And the Wizard, Ozzie Smith, will play shortstop. Jose Oquendo is the second baseman. Pedro Guerrero will play first, and he's also their biggest RBI threat in that lineup. And youngster Todd Zeile behind the plate doing the catching. And Ken Hill, and because of the back spasms of Joe McGrain, Ken Hill called up from Louisville about 10 days ago, pitched a good game against the Mets. A live fastball, pretty good breaking ball, but a split finger fastball, forkball, when he gets that over, that's when he wins.
And a very fine athlete, formerly out of the Tigers organization. The umpires at home plate, Jerry Davis will call balls and strikes this afternoon. Mike Winters will be over at first base. Jerry Lane will umpire at second. And the crew chief, Paul Runge, will umpire at third base. And the Cardinals take the field. Normally a team that has been dominant at Busch Stadium, but right now the Cardinals have the worst record in the National League at home. Ken Hill, the right-hander, will face this lineup for the New York Mets this afternoon. Howard Johnson will be playing shortstop today. Kevin Elster has tendonitis in his shoulder, and he'll sit this one out. Dave Magadan will bat second at first base. Greg Jeffries at second base. Magadan at first. Darryl Strawberry, the cleanup hitter. Kevin McReynolds will be in left field. Mackey Sasser behind the plate. Darrell Boston, who hit a home run last night. Center field, Tom O'Malley at third base. And Doc Gooden pitching for the Mets.
Mentioned that forkball or split finger fastball that Ken Hill throws, and Mike Rourke, the Cardinal pitching coach, said last year it was just a question of could Hill throw strikes, could he get the ball in the strike zone. He was 7-15, walked about 5 a game. Now he's taken it to a little higher level in that he's throwing strikes on a better basis. That number's deceptive because that includes a couple of relief appearances, but now he's getting that off-speed pitch over and starting to come around and be part of this starting rotation.
This has not been a good power park, which is why the Cardinals play a speed kind of game. 330 feet down the lines, 383 in the power alleys, and 414 to straightaway center, and have many of those Cardinals taking advantage of the artificial turf with the hitters that they have had. Fewest home runs by ballpark, and there it is. Third right now. Busch Stadium, only 58 home runs have been hit here. We've been the Astrodome. You know how tough that is.
Yeah, and what's important, you mentioned the big ballpark here at Busch Stadium, is speed in the outfield. That's more of an important issue today than ever before. Cut off the potential doubles, and Cardinals have great speed in the outfield. Mets not quite as much.
Interesting to see Fenway Park among that list. That's because the Red Sox are not a home run hitting team as they used to be. 41-19. That's a mighty impressive record that the Mets have compiled since Bud Harrelson replaced Davey Johnson, who was fired on May the 29th. And Joe Torre, who had a successful debut Thursday in Philadelphia, but lost a real tough heartbreaker last night. Greg Jeffries won the game as the Mets scored 3 in the 9th to win 5-4. This is Joe Torre's record as a manager. Not that solid with the Mets, as you see, but in Atlanta, a different story.
Well, he won the division in 1982, and it was this Cardinal ball club right here that beat the Braves when Torre managed them. And now another chance to manage a ball club where he had some really great years as a player.
Hojo leading off. Howard Johnson switch hitting. He hits .270 as a left-handed batter. Back in the lineup this past week after missing last Sunday with some spasms, had problems with the neck muscles, so severe he was hospitalized. Ken Hill. And the first pitch of the game, ball 1 low. Infield plays around to the right on Johnson. He gets aboard. He's got terrific speed. Leads the Mets in stolen bases. Fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Interesting battle because Howard Johnson from the left side of the plate can turn on a fastball as good as anybody in baseball, and that of course is the dominant pitch of Ken Hill. He's got to get his forkball over to Johnson to be effective.
Here's the 1-1 pitch to Howard Johnson. Swung on and missed, strike 2. Johnson will not approach last year's great numbers. He had a career season with 101 RBIs.
Well, and that's an early indication of the improvement that Ken Hill has made. Good forkball breaking down and away from the left-hand hitter.
Learning how to use the strike zone. That's what Mike Rourke told us. Had those problems last year. Had a terrible second half, did Hill. 2 balls and 2 strikes now to Howard Johnson. Dave Magadan on deck, followed by Greg Jeffries, top of the first inning. Mets have won 8 of their last 11 games. Outfield playing Johnson more or less straight away and not very deep. Strikes out on a good fastball, and there's 1 down in the top of the first.
Well, Hojo will walk back to the bench and say, yeah, boys, he's got some gas. He's getting it up there because, as I said, he is one of the better fastball hitters, but he never gets the barrel of the bat around on this one. See him just a touch tardy, and when he's tardy, it's an indication of the quality of Hill's fastball.
Dave Magadan, the batter, hitting .342. Finally established at 1 position and a fixture in the lineup, and that's helped his game. Looks at a fastball in for a strike. Mike Marshall had the first base job in the spring, got hurt. Magadan took over. And of course, Marshall had been unhappy, has since been dealt to the Boston Red Sox. Play Magadan straight away. There's the breaking ball. And the count 1-1.
And you said help his game, and that's a key phrase with Dave Magadan, because oftentimes when you're fighting for a job, when you get a chance to play, you try to do too much. Now the job's his. He's relaxed. He's playing better in the field. He's an all-around better ball player.
Just a bit low. 2 balls and a strike to Magadan, who has been a solid hitter against the Cardinals this year, hitting .356 and leads the Mets with 11 runs batted in against St. Louis. Grounded to shortstop. Ozzie Smith And they're 2 away.
Well, 10 gold gloves. Nobody's ever played it better. And surprisingly, the defense has been what has let the Cardinals down this year. Not in particularly Ozzie, but as a ball club. They have played horrendous in the field. Not just errors, but throwing to the wrong bases.
They're mired in the middle of the league in fielding percentage after leading the league 8 of the last 9 years. Here's Greg Jeffries having a spectacular year. Takes ball 1 outside. Jeffries hitting .306. Has showed some good power with 13 home runs. Switch hitter and hitting about the same way from the left side. .307. 2 down, nobody on. Mets batting in the top of the first inning. 2-0 the count to Jeffries. Darryl Strawberry to follow. Fastball in the inside part of the strike zone, fouled away, and it's 2-1.
See Jeffries wiggle those fingers on the bat. You know, you want to be intense as a player. In fact, that's Joe Torre's motto: be intense without being tense. And Greg Jeffries of the Mets, watch him. Pitchers like to feel the ball, and hitters like to feel the bat. They don't want to squeeze it, they want to feel it.
2-1 delivery. Just misses, and it's 3-1 to Jeffries. One of those heady ball players that many of the Mets who have to pin some blame for their problems earlier in the year, and the fact that Dykstra and Backman no longer with the club, but he's as heady as the best of them. On the corner, and the count is full, 3-2.
Yeah, and that's an example of taking that 3-1 pitch right there. He does get better as the season wears on. He likes to get on base for the big guy hitting fourth.
The 3-2 pitch to Jeffries, fouled out of play. Greg just turned 23 years of age this past Wednesday. Ken Hill 7-15 in his rookie year a season ago with the Cardinals. 3-2 pitch is lined to right field. Milt Thompson is back, makes the grab to retire the side in order. So it's the Mets nothing and the Cardinals coming to bat. It was the Cardinals come up in the first inning here at Busch Stadium. Let's see how the Mets will defend the Redbirds. Jim?
Well, Kevin McReynolds will play left field. Darryl Boston, well, what a job he's done for the Mets. He'll play center. Darryl Strawberry, as usual, over and right. Around the infield, Tom O'Malley will get the start today against the right-hand pitcher. And Howard Johnson moves over to shortstop. Greg Jeffries plays second. Dave Magadan at first. Behind the plate, Mackie Sasser. And he'll catch the Doc. Dwight Gooden looking for his 12th win.
And trying to make it 9 in a row. This is the Cardinal batting order today. Milt Thompson will lead off in right field. Ozzie Smith is at shortstop. Willie McGee at center field. Pedro Guerrero hitting cleanup at first. Rookie Todd Zeile, the catcher. Terry Pendleton at third base. Rex Hudler getting an opportunity today with Vince Coleman out of there in left field. Jose Oquendo is at second base, and Ken Hill, the pitcher. Coleman had to come out of the game yesterday with a strained hamstring, so he's out of there. And of course, I'm sure Dwight Gooden, who has had some problems holding runners on, is glad to see Vince out of there.
Yeah, that's a good sign for Gooden, and a good sign for the Mets and Gooden is the fact that those last 9 starts, he's really had command of his curveball and his changeup. The strikeout total might be down a little bit the last 8 or 9, but he's won 8 in a row, and he gives the Mets 7+ innings about every time he goes to the mound.
He did in his last game as he and Ojeda combined to blank the Cardinals last Sunday. Milt Thompson leading off, hitting .202, has never really gotten on track this season. He was a major surprise for the Cardinals a year ago. Slap to shortstop. Howard Johnson makes the first play, and there's one away. Howard Johnson told us in the Mets dressing room that the one thing he'll have to be on the lookout for playing short instead of third will be pop-ups, and also watching the coverage of the double play.
Yeah, anytime you've got a lot of speed in the lineup also, that puts a little more pressure on a guy like Johnson at short. You want to play these guys maybe a few steps toward home plate. Don't get to the ball quite as quickly.
Ozzie Smith, one of 4 pinch hitters in the Cardinals lineup today, looks at a pitch up high, hitting .242 on the year, and .242 is a left-handed batter. Foul to at the plate. 1-1.
What Ozzie Smith brings to this ball club is the Mets shorten up a little bit on defense, and he's able to take advantage of this turf here. You see O'Malley is drawn in right there. When guys like Smith and McGee whack the ball off this turf, that's when the Cardinals generate some runs.
Breaking ball misses, and it's 2-1. Ozzie started slowly this year, but lately he's gotten that batting average up. He was the fans' choice, as you know, to start the All-Star game. Although a lot of people thought that the likes of Dunston and Larkin probably deserved it. Can't argue with the fans, though.
It's their game.
Three balls and a strike now to Ozzie Smith. On deck is Willie McGee. Bottom of the first inning. Just the start of things here at Busch Stadium. Doc Gooden trying to win his 12th game of the year. Has lost only 5. Fastball for a strike, and it's full now. 3-2.
Remember when Doc Gooden came up, he didn't have a lot of success in day games, and people couldn't figure out why. Well, what he started to do is he gets up a little earlier in the morning, gets that body ready to go.
And pitch on the outside corner, called strike 3. Gooden coming into this game with 135 strikeouts amongst the league leaders.
Now, here's that good command within the strike zone. We're not talking about walking people. We're talking about making pitchers pitches, and that's one right there knee high on the outside corner. And Jerry Davis makes the call.
Willie McGee hitting .327 as a left-handed batter. 2 out, nobody on. Ball 1. McGee had a 22-game hitting streak. Tops in the National League this year. Snapped this the other day. Still one of the National League's top hitters. And a contender for the batting crown.
Willie McGee, more than any hitter in baseball, will hit the ball on the ground more than hit the ball in the air. When you play in this ballpark, you've got to hit the ball on the ground to hit 300 like Willie's doing.
Swings and misses on the 2-0. That's one of the things they wanted from Vince Coleman. Sometimes Coleman hits the ball in the air a little bit too much, and you got a chance to beat it out. McGee, one of the free agents who may or may not be back with the Cardinals next year. Fouls is at the plate, and the other day, just about the time Joe Torre was day manager, he says, I'm through. I'm not going to be back next year. And that may change.
Yeah, oftentimes players say that. You know, there's a lot of negotiating that goes into the things you say these days with free agent market. But, boy, he's been a popular player in St. Louis, and I know they'd like to keep him here.
3 balls and 2 strikes now. There they are, the free agents. I see a question mark around John Tudor's
Well,
name.
he said, you know, I really don't know, and I don't care. It's not the time to deal with it, and I'll find out sooner or later. But those are guys that potentially could walk away.
3-2 pitch, right back to the mound. Gooden makes the play, and so each team has been retired in order in the first inning here at Busch Stadium. Big day tomorrow for Jim Palmer and Joe Morgan in Cooperstown, New York.
Boy, and the butterflies are there getting the speeches ready. Well, one phrase when you think of who goes to the Hall of Fame, all-time greats, and there's 2 of them right there.
Our congratulations to them. Mets batting in the second inning. Darryl Strawberry, 26 home runs, tied with Kevin Mitchell for the National League lead. Swings and misses on a good breaking ball by Hill. Strawberry's season picked up just about the time when the team came around. He had problems the first 2 months and then went on a tear during a 17-game hitting streak. Up high, 1-1, playing very deep in the middle of the infield, beyond that line indicating the infield and out.
Well, they respect his power, and the ball will get there in a hurry. They'll have time to throw him out.
2 balls and a strike to Strawberry. He'll be followed by Kevin McReynolds and Mackie Sasser. In the air to left field, Rex Hudler is there, and he makes the play. Strawberry's out, 1 gone in the Mets second.
Another indication of the progress Ken Hill has made. Darryl Strawberry's a low ball hitter. Look at this pitch. Fastball up above the belt with that big high leg kick, trying to generate some power. But the fastball's up, and Darryl doesn't get to that one quite as quickly. And a soft fly to left.
1 gone to Kevin McReynolds. who's had an unproductive year compared to his past performances, hitting just .260. Fastball hit up the middle and through into center field, a base hit. So the first base runner of the ball game, McReynolds, is on. And that'll bring up a big bright spot for the Mets this year. Their catcher, Mackey Sasser, who's been a hitting machine, hit his first grand slam of his career against De Leon last week at Shea Stadium.
Not only improved, you see that batting average, but Doc Edwards, the New York Mets dugout coach, has really worked hard with Sasser on his throwing, and his throwing is getting better. The arm is there. It's a matter of getting the mechanics straightened out. That's often the case with a pitcher or a hitter.
Pedro Guerrero is holding McReynolds on. Does not take much of a lead. Infield, a double play depth. Good fastball in on the fist, fouled off for a strike. Mike Cubbage is the first base coach for the Mets, and over at third is Chuck Hiller. Sasser taking a look at his bat to see if it was indeed broken.
See the token toss. Kevin McReynolds, you don't think of him as a base stealing threat, but he always has that high percentage. You don't throw him out very often, and he's good at picking up and reading pitchers' moves.
Time is called.
You know, if you're blessed with just blazing speed, those little things aren't as important, but Kevin McReynolds depends on those little skills to be a good base stealer.
And it's lashed into right field for a base hit. McReynolds will hold it second, bobbled out there by Milt Thompson. And so Sasser has a hit, so Mets now with runners at first and second and one out. With a rally here in the second inning to Darrell Boston. Darrell Boston has been platooning in center field along with Mark Carrion. Carrion, though, is going to get some time on the bench. He's been slumping, and Keith Miller now will be platooning with Boston. Released by the White Sox, has paid dividends with the Mets. Hit a home run last night.
Don't know if McReynolds could have made it to third base, but another example of the Cardinals' problems. Milt Thompson bobbled that ball. I would think Buddy Harrelson is saying to his team, keep on running, because these guys aren't picking it up very well.
Fastball misses outside. Field around to the right on Boston. The outfield basically straight away. You look at other games in progress around the major leagues. Hill is pitching Boston away and falls behind 2-0.
Yeah, and this is where teams like the Mets, all good hitting teams, this is where you begin to become vulnerable as a pitcher. You fall behind these guys 2-0, Strawberry and Boston, that are having good years. That's when they do the damage.
And it's popped up to the left side of the infield. Ozzie Smith going out, called off by Rex Hudler. And Hudler makes the catch. Interesting that Mike Rourke was telling us about how he says, I never would want a pitcher to pitch around a hitter, not give him anything good. You've got to go at him and challenge him, and that's what Hill was not doing until that last pitch.
Right, he was nibbling a little bit, and you'll find young pitchers in the middle of the lineup. When you get a Strawberry, a McReynolds, the guys that have the reputation, pitchers begin to pitch a little more carefully. And Hill's guilty of that, but to show you the life in his fastball, he comes right back with a 2-0 heater to Boston, and he didn't get around on it.
Here's Tom O'Malley playing third base today. 29-year-old veteran, has been well-traveled, utility player, can play various positions. Mets with runners at first and second, 2 out, and the first pitch is in for a strike, and for the first time all day we see the sunshine. A welcome sight.
Amazing, in last night's game, the rain just stopped about game time, and they were able to get that baby in. Almost full house again at Busch Stadium.
One ball and one strike. Kevin McReynolds is the runner at second base. Mackey Sasser at first. 2 down. No score. Mets batting in the second inning.
Some guys from the time they're in the minor leagues are almost destined to be big league stars, like a Darryl Strawberry. But here you got a guy like Tom O'Malley. Now, he really appreciates being in the big leagues. Started with the Giants, up and down AAA Express, and now a chance to play on a contending ball club.
Outside, 2 balls and a strike. Also spent some time with the White Sox, and as of late, the Orioles. He was the most valuable player in the International League a year ago.
He was the regular third baseman for the Giants in the early 80s. They had high hopes for him.
And if you're a team like the Mets, good man to have around, a veteran who knows how to play. Changeup, swung on and missed. Good let-up pitch by Hill, and the count is even 2-2.
Yeah, that's what that. See, the forkball or split finger, whichever you care to choose it, for Ken Hill is almost it's 2 pitches in one, because that one was an off-speed forkball, but also he could throw it harder, and it's a strikeout pitch.
Taking his time, the number 8 hitter in the Met lineup today. Mets have won 9 of 11 against the Cardinals and have not lost yet to St. Louis here at Busch Stadium. They're 4-0 against the Cards. Pitch, swung on and missed, strikeout. So the Mets get 2 hits and lead 2, and after an inning and a half, still no score. Milestones around the league, Carlton Fisk inches closer to Johnny Bench's record.
Well, kind of appropriate that on Hall of Fame weekend, Pudge needs 1 to tie Bench, and when his career's over, that's where he's going, to Cooperstown. And another guy, Nolan Ryan. Boy, if you want a couple of examples of ball players that continue to work hard, keep themselves fit and productive, you can't find 2 better ones than Ryan and Fisk going strong in their 40s.
No score, bottom of the 2nd inning, Pedro Guerrero. Cardinal first baseman leading off, missed 4 games this past week with a bruised left foot. Fouled the ball off of his foot last week. They need him for the run production. Check swing, foul out of play, strike 1. Guerrero leads the Cardinals with 11 home runs and also tops them with 65 runs driven in.
Yeah, what they need more than that, I think, from a Pedro Guerrero type of player. This Cardinal ball club doesn't really have a leader on the field. Now, back in their championship years in the early 80s, they had George Hendrick, Bob Forsch, a pitcher, Gene Tennis. Good examples for the other players. They need somebody now to kind of take charge in that clubhouse.
1 ball and 1 strike. Dwight Gooden got off to a slow start this year, but he's turned his season around. His last start was pushed back 2 days. He had some stiffness in his shoulder. Ground ball, shortstop, backhanded nicely by Johnson. Makes the throw in time. And there's 1 away in the 2nd inning. Right now, for an update, let's check in with Greg Gumbel in New York. Greg?
Well, Dick, the Giants scored a run in their half of the 1st inning at Candlestick. Huey Brooks thinks there's 2 out. There's only 1. And Brett Butler tags at second, comes all the way around on the fly ball by Will Clark. They have now gone to the 3rd inning, and the Giants lead the Dodgers 1-0. Dick?
All right, Greg, thank you very much. Giants coming in 4.5 behind the Reds in what has turned out to be a pretty solid race with a lot of time remaining. Here's Todd Zeile, the rookie catcher for the Cardinals, takes ball 1 inside.
Well, as soon as Joe Torre got the manager's job, one of the first questions he had to address is, will you move Todd Zeile to 3rd base, which Joe Torre did during his playing career. I think he wants to watch him for a while.
Breaking ball hit into the hole and past Howard Johnson for a base hit. Hojo got a piece of it, but Todd Zeile is aboard, and that's the first base hit for the Cardinals.
You know, oftentimes a young player like Todd Zeile, so much is expected of him in the first year. There's an example of going out to the outside part of the plate and pulling a Doc Gooden pitch through the hole. That takes a little bat speed, but I think Torre, being the Godfather type of guy, that was his nickname when he played here, is going to sit back and watch Todd Zeile and not expect too much too soon.
Terry Pendleton, switch hitter. He's a .246 hitter from the left side. Infield is shortened up in the middle in double play death. Ball 1, the count to Pendleton. That's the way the Mets are playing the Cardinals. Rich Hacker, the 3rd base coach, flashing the signs. Jim Riggleman is the 1st base coach. Fastball broken, bat looper into left field, and diving and making the catch is Kevin McReynolds. A fine play for a good left fielder, and there are 2 down.
Boy, he just played it as smooth as he could. The tendency there is, well, do I have to dive or slide? But you see McReynolds had it measured all the way. Knew he could catch it at his shoe tops without diving. Real steady out there in left field for the Mets and has been for some time. Not an easy play. He made it look easy, but it's not that easy a play.
So McReynolds can still give the Mets some solid defensive play, even though he's been struggling at the plate. That'll bring up Rex Hudler with 2 out and a runner at first base. Hudler is hitting .218. Zeal, the runner, held on by Dave Magadan. Fastball on the corner for a strike. Hudler has been in 58 games. The Red Sox leading the Tigers 3-1 into the 9th inning.
Rex Hudler's another player like Tom O'Malley, just, appreciates being in the big leagues. His biggest task against Gooden, keep both feet on the ground and not swing too hard. He's pumped.
Big cut on a breaking ball by Dwight, and the count is 0-2.
You don't get to play very often, and you come to the clubhouse and look on the lineup and say, man, I'm playing against Doc Gooden. And that's what Doc has done. He'll get ahead of you, make you chase that curveball.
He's real enthused. What did he say when you said you're in there?
He said, I'm pumped, man. He was walking around that clubhouse. Rocky Balboa.
No balls and 2 strikes. Strikes out on a breaking ball. And so Doc Gooden has his 2nd strikeout of the game. And after 2, no score. Well, the Blue Jays had a half-game lead. They've lost 2 in a row. The Red Sox have won 2 straight and winning today to take over the lead in the American League East again.
Well, the Red Sox are doing it with a bullpen less than healthy. Jeff Reardon is banged up down there, may need surgery. In Toronto, of course, talent-wise, I still think they're the team in that American League East.
Ken Hill facing Doc Gooden, his opposite number. Ball 1 to him. Gooden has himself a home run this year. He's driven in 8 runs.
Both the pitchers today are above-average athletes. Hill can field his position. He's a good hitter. Doc Gooden the same way.
Fastball fouled off, and the count 1-1.
In fact, Ken Hill was an infielder in the Detroit organization when he started out. Came over to the Cardinals for catcher Mike Heath.
Breaking ball hit in the air to left field. Rex Hudler coming on in. He makes the catch, 1 out. In the American League, it's interesting you say that Toronto with the talent, even though there are 2 good races there, most people think it'll be Oakland and Toronto in the playoffs. They may be surprised, but you're right as far as the general consensus is concerned.
Yeah, I think the White Sox are having a great year, but hey, nobody's going to beat Oakland. They're just too solid. They don't have any prolonged losing streaks, and you keep saying about Toronto, or I do, they have the most talent. You hate to use that word, underachievers, but that's what they've been for years, and they should play a lot better consistently than they do.
Mets batting around for the 2nd time. Howard Johnson struck out his first time up. Takes a fastball for a strike.
There's the surgery possibility for Jeff Reardon, and Rob Murphy, the left-handed part of that bullpen, is not pitching as well lately.
Ball and a strike now to Howard Johnson.
Where they've gotten great production is starting pitchers that you've heard very little about, like Dana Kicker and Greg Harris, Tom Bolton.
2-1. Bolton really has given the Red Sox a lift. And it's interesting that as we saw how many few home runs have been hit at Fenway Park, how the Red Sox have gone a different route this year to achieve what they hope will be a division title.
Well, you get guys like Boggs and Jody Reed that pepper doubles off that green monster.
Hill falls behind Hojo. 3-1 now with 1 out. Mets batting in the top of the 3rd inning. No score. Cardinals coming into this game 12 games under 500 in last place. 16 behind New York. In the air to left center field. Willie McGee calls off Hudler, and it's Hudler who makes the catch. McGee had called for it, and they almost had a big mix-up. Right now, let's check in with Greg Gumbel in New York.
Dick, you were showing those American League East standings. The Red Sox look like they will hold on to what they have. Dwight Evans, base hit in the 7th inning, brought Wade Boggs around with run number 3. They lead the Tigers 3-1 in the 9th inning now. Roger Clemens in line to win his 15th, Dick.
All right, Greg, thanks for the update in the American League. 2 down, Dave Magadan. Bounced to short his first time up. Looks at a breaking ball. It misses. Haven't been able to get Magadan out of the lineup ever since Mike Marshall got hurt. Fastball on the corner, and you'd have to say so far Ken Hill is learning how to use the strike zone a lot more than he did a year ago.
Yeah, you can tell when you're looking at a left-hand hitter, and most of them are low ball hitters, and you see a guy be able to get his fastball in the strike zone upstairs, you know his control's improving.
Ball's behind, 2-1.
Remember we talked about Ryan Sandberg, and he was just a singles hitter when he came up, and now he's a power hitter. Well, Dave Magadan under Davey Johnson had just one extra base hit. Buddy Harrelson said, hey, you can do some damage. Don't be content with little flares and singles. And since that, he's got 22 of them.
In the air to left center field. Hudler coming over, and it gets by him. Misplayed it. Going all the way to the wall, Willie McGee gets the ball in as Magadan will stop at second, and there it is, an extra base hit for Dave. The Mets have had an extra base hit in every game this year with one exception, back on April the 20th.
Well, Rex Hudler would probably say, I played this into a double. We'll give Dave Magadan credit for hitting a double, but it's another indication of the Cardinal defense. Hudler out there with Vince Coleman on the bench, but there's decision time, and he doesn't get to the ball quickly enough to trap it. And by the time Willie McGee shags it down, it's a two-base hit. Should have been a single.
Joe Torre, who's making a lot of decisions on players that he's not all that familiar with from here on to the end of the year.
Got Mike Rourke, his pitching coach, seated next to him. Analyze Ken Hill.
Here's Greg Jeffries. So the Mets, 2 out, have a runner in scoring position. No score, top of the 3rd. Curveball in for a strike. Magadan's double, by the way, his 16th of the year. Hudler just wasn't really sure how to play it out there.
Yeah, he's a guy that can play a lot of positions for you, but he's not an exceptional left fielder. Of course, doesn't have the speed of Vince Coleman.
On the corner. Ken Hill is ahead of Jeffries, 2 strikes. Jeffries lined out sharply to the right fielder Milt Thompson in the 1st inning. Hit, stroke to center field. Magadan rounds 3rd. He'll score, and the Mets have taken a 1-0 lead. And for Greg Jeffries, his 51st RBI of the year.
See, now that's kind of not in the box score defense. That ball that was hit to left field was not scored an error, but yet the Cardinals gave the Mets an extra base, and as a result, Jeffries' single knocks in a run. And that's the reasons the Cardinals are down there in last place, because they give teams extra outs and extra bases, and guys like Jeffries and Magadan take advantage of it.
Jeffries won last night's game with a single in the 9th for the 3-run rally. Puts the Mets in front here, and here's Darryl Strawberry. Skied out to left field his first time up. People say that's the way to pitch Strawberry, either give him breaking pitches inside or fastballs in tight to move him away from the plate.
Yeah, or pitch him like you did Ted Williams, high and behind him. But yeah, the guys with that kind of power, you want a crowd up and in and then low and away. That's the 2 best places to pitch any hitter.
There was that leg kick. They appealed to the 3rd base umpire, Paul Runge, and it is a strike. He did go around, so the count is 1-1 to Strawberry.
Paul Runge, the son of a great American League umpire for years, Ed Runge.
Like father, like son, and an outstanding umpire at that. See the black armbands? That's in memory of Augie Donatelli, who was a National League umpire for over 20 years, passed away on May the 24th. 2 balls and a strike to Darryl Strawberry, who has never hit fewer than 26 home runs in a season since joining the Mets 7 years ago, and that's exactly what he's got this year. 2 down. Jeffries the runner at first. The Mets have a run in here in the top of the 3rd inning, lead the Cardinals 1-0.
To be that kind of a player, you mentioned Darryl Strawberry tied for the league lead in home runs. Buddy Harrelson said if you want to be the highest paid player in the game, you've got to be a complete player in the field, on the bases. 3.5 hours of solid concentration.
soft going, and the pitch taken inside 3-1. That's true. Strawberry has shown concentration lapses, particularly out in the outfield in his career. And I think he's going to respond to Harrelson.
And this is a situation right here when you're talking about concentration. Buddy's got guys going to the plate with thoughts in mind. Who's the pitcher? What kind of a pitch am I looking for? Right here, Strawberry wants to get a fastball inside that he can drive.
And the runner goes. The 3-1 pitch fouled away. So the Mets had hit and run on their minds with 2 down here.
Unless, of course, the manager puts the hit and run on, then you don't look for a pitch to drive. Your job is to hit it, and that's what he did.
Jeffries coming back. He drove in the run on an 0-2 pitch, by the way. Bud Harrelson says the team has passed that little valley, that post All-Star valley. They've just been 14-10 since that time. 3-2 pitch with 2 out. The runner goes, and a bouncer to first baseman Pedro Guerrero, and the side is out. The Mets score a run and will return to Busch Stadium after this word from your local station. 1-0 Mets going to the bottom of the 3rd inning. And Jim, what'd you think of that story that George Steinbrenner actually talked to Tom Seaver, maybe running the baseball side of operations with the Yankees?
I think that's something Tom Seaver wanted to do when he was a member of the Mets, and when he left the Met organization. I think that's part of the job, like Torrey managing. If you want to do it, you'll do a good job at it, and I think Seaver would.
Be a good pick and a very popular choice. Jose Oquendo, the number 8 hitter in the Cardinal lineup, leading off in the 3rd inning. Hits it out to left field. Charging is Kevin McReynolds, and he makes the catch in foul territory for the first out. So Oquendo is retired on 1 pitch.
You know, talking about Seaver, guys that have achieved so much in this game, they still want to stay a part of the game, and they look for new challenges. And I don't think Tom Seaver wanted to be a pitching coach. He's done a great job as a broadcaster, but I think in the back of his mind, that would be the ultimate, to run a ball club, and that might be his chance right there.
Ken Hill, the pitcher, coming up. 0 for 2 this season. And why would Joe Torre want to switch from being an announcer,
really?
A cushy job, as you told me so many times?
Whoa.
No. Fastball.
Well, Joe Torre had said there's only one franchise I would have done, and that's the Cardinals. He's got that, and that's what this team needs. They restore a little Cardinal pride. Might sound corny, but they need it.
Fouls it off. Dwight Gooden, who went 7 innings last Sunday, did not allow a run, was throwing 94 miles an hour with his fastball in the latter stages. He's throwing right now at 96 miles per hour. Fastball in for a strike, 1 and 2. Of course, you never told me it was a cushy job. In fact, sometimes with the humidity, it can get kind of
a little sticky.
Right?
As Doc, you see him wiping his brow. Well, many think he's lost a little of that fastball since the injury, but he hasn't.
Curveball a bit up high, and it's 2 and 2.
His fastball has stayed in those mid to high 90s, but what makes him a better pitcher is the command of the curveball. And then, like Nolan Ryan throws a lot of changeups now. So does Gooden.
Fastball and line sharply to right field for a base hit. So Ken Hill gets his first base hit of the season. Cardinal pitcher is on with 1 out in the bottom of the 3rd inning. That's the 2nd hit off Dwight Gooden. And now the top of the order, Milt Thompson coming to the plate.
That'll give you a little black cord fever as a pitcher. You get on the phone and say, hey, man, I pitched and I got a hit off Doc Gooden. You think of Ken Hill as maybe he could be a young Doc Gooden. They're only a year apart. Gooden's only 25. It's hard to imagine as long as he's been pitching.
Well, he's just one of the best in the game, a Cy Young Award winner already. Curveball in for a called strike to Thompson, who grounded out to short his first time. Magadan just playing right behind Hill, the base runner at first base. Fastball misses.
Yeah, no, it's a hot, sticky afternoon, and they say, well, pitchers, you know, save yourself, save your strength. But Hill's a pretty good athlete. Magadan plays behind him. And Torrey wants to be aggressive, get an extra step and steal it.
In for the strike, 1 and 2.
Doc has given up 43 stolen bases this year. That's more than any other pitcher. So he's a guy that is easy to steal on, whether you're a burner or a pitcher.
He's pitched well against the Cardinals, 10-4 lifetime against St. Louis. 1-2 pitch, fastball outside. 2-2 now to Milt Thompson, who was a surprise last year. He was acquired from the Phillies to be basically a fourth outfielder and wound up arguably the best of all of the Cardinals outfielders. Hit .290. Swings and misses way ahead of that curveball. And that evens the count. Oh, no, that's strike 3, and he's out of there. So that is the third strikeout for Dwight Gooden.
Once again, an example of Gooden's control. That's the backdoor curveball that he has done so well to left-hand hitters. Right over the top and all downward action. Even if you hit that ball, it's going to be a weak ground ball to short. The old 12 to 6 curveball, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Don't see many of them anymore. Gooden and Ryan are exceptions.
Ozzie Smith with 2 out and a runner at first base. Mets lead 1-0, bottom of the 3rd inning. And a ball hit out to right field. Darryl Strawberry has a play on it, and he makes the grab to retire the side. There was a hit in 1 left, and after 3 complete at Busch Stadium, it's the Mets 1 and the Cardinals 0. Well, the Oakland A's lead Chicago White Sox by 3.5. Only 1 in the loss column as the White Sox hang in there against the world champs.
Yeah, but as long as you have that guy on your side, look at those numbers. Remember at the All-Star game, he said, you're going to see a better Jose Canseco the second half. And you have. You know, it's hard to imagine about him in a foot race. Canseco, Ricky Henderson, and they have a fast young infielder named Lance Blankenship in a distance, not just home to first, but a little longer distance. Canseco will be faster than Ricky Henderson in a foot race.
Well, Oakland is at California tonight. White Sox play at Milwaukee. As that race continues, moves along, and we move along to the top of the 4th inning. Kevin McReynolds will lead off for the Mets, who lead at 1-0. Mets have a run and 4 hits. The Cardinals no runs on 2 hits. McReynolds single to center his first time up. In for the strike. Ken Hill 1-1. Facing the Mets is 1 victory against New York. Breaking ball is up high, and it's 1-1.
Getting into that second time around now, and also the good hitters like McReynolds, you'll see a little bigger challenge for Ken Hill. Change the pattern, start out with more breaking balls.
Fastball for a strike. 1-2 to Kevin McReynolds, who hit for the cycle just about a year ago right here at Busch Stadium. That was the first time in his career. Single, double, triple, and home run in 1 game. Swings and misses on a good slider, and that'll be the 3rd strikeout of the game for Hill, and there's 1 gone in the Met 4th. Well, so far it's 1-0. Greg Jeffries driving in Dave Magadan with the only run of the game, and Dwight Gooden looking for his 12th victory of the year, moving along. Mackey Sasser, the batter, with 1 out in the 4th inning. Singled through the hole in right field his first time up. Hit on the ground and through into the hole in left field this time. And so Mackey Sasser is 2 for 2. And the Mets have 5 hits. And right now for an update, let's check in with Greg Gumbel in our New York studios. Greg?
Well, Dick, in San Francisco, a drive by Matt Williams reaches the wall, number 21 of the year for Williams to put the Giants out in front 2-0. But Hubie Brooks has homered in the top of the 5th, and it's now 2-1 San Francisco. Dick?
All right. Thank you, Greg. Update on that Giant-Dodger game. Darrell Boston, the batter, with 1 on and 1 out. Takes ball 1. He flied out his first trip.
See Hill and Zeal going away from Boston with that off-speed pitch. That's third base coach Chuck Hiller. He actually coached third base for the Cardinals back here in '82 when they won the World Championship.
There goes the runner, and the pitch is fouled off. So the Mets playing hit and run, and Sasser got a good jump that time on Ken Hill.
And another example of a life on Ken Hill's fastball. You know, when it's a fastball or a hit and run situation and you get a fastball to hit and you can't do much with it, as a lot of the left-handed Met hitters today have not done, then that tells you this guy's got a quality heater.
Originally was not scheduled to pitch in this series. Joe McGrain was scheduled to work last night and Jose De Leon today, but McGrain came back up with back spasms and he's been scratched till Monday. Good fastball swung on and missed by Boston, and the count is 1-2. That was over 90 miles an hour.
Oh, and the Cardinals starting pitching has been really more effective on a consistent basis than the Mets. So is the Expos and the Cincinnati Reds, but they haven't had the run production or the defense.
High pop fly, a lot of room in foul territory. Terry Pendleton makes a great catch. He slid and made a catch as he slammed into the photographer's barrier, and a fine play by Pendleton. One of the best defensive third basemen.
Well, he has struggled this year in the field, but he's won a couple Gold Gloves. Now, you don't practice this in spring training. This is instincts and athletic ability, and could be dangerous. You see him make the slide, the catch, and then his spikes hit that barrier right there, but he had the presence of mind to pop up and immediately turn around and check the runner.
And you saw some of the water from the earlier rain spray up as he slid in there. So Terry Pendleton, one of those free agents, one of those 8, the big 8, with an outstanding play. 2 down to Tom O'Malley, who was a strikeout victim his first time up. Takes a fastball for a strike 1.
I think if Joe Torre can show some enough interest and enthusiasm in this ball club the last couple months to show them that it's fun to play here, we can bring a championship here, I think some of these guys may change their mind about walking.
1 ball and 1 strike. And of course, Torre also knows that he has some impressive players down in Louisville, their AAA farm club, Bernard Gilkey, Ray Langford, who they think can move up and possibly replace some of these veteran outfields. But as you mentioned earlier, Joe Torre didn't come here for a 5-year rebuilding plan.
He wants to win. He likes that taste. That's why he took the job.
Fouled away, and the count is 1-2 to Tom O'Malley.
And you change managers, you change personalities. They did it. The first successful one was in the Yankees brought in Bob Lemon, a very calm, laid-back approach to replace the fiery Billy Martin. And they won a championship. But you change the whole personality, and you show guys that it's fun to play again, a little fresh enthusiasm. And if Torre can do that, he can convince the Willie McGees and the Terry Pendletons to stay here.
Mackey Sasser on at first base, 2 away in the Met 4th. New York leading St. Louis 1-0. He jammed him, and a big hop to the first baseman Pedro Guerrero, and the side is out. No runs, a hit, 1 left after 3 1/2. 1-0 the Mets.
Well, when Buddy Harrelson took over the Mets, he said to each guy, I want you to come to the ballpark with a plan in mind. What are you going to do that day? And he said, I'll give you an example. My ex-teammate, Jerry Koosman, with the Mets, was pitching for Minnesota. Buddy was with Texas. And Cousy was pitching against the Rangers that day. And Buddy said, why don't you come over for dinner? Coos said, okay, so what do you like to eat the day you pitch? Pasta. Gave him 1 plate, gave him 2 plates, gave him 3 plates. First time up, I pushed a bunt down the first baseline. Coos couldn't move off the mound. He said, that was my plan. I want my players to have a plan.
Whatever it is. And he's loosened up the ship of the Mets pretty well. Willie McGee leading off in the 4th inning, and a high chopper. Jeffries behind the bag, makes the play, safe. Willie McGee's speed beat it out, and the Cardinals, with McGee on, have the tying run on.
Well, unless you're a 40 home run hitter, and they don't have any of those at Busch Stadium, you make your living hitting the ball off the ground, and with great speed like Willie McGee, that's what he does better than any hitter in baseball.
Jeffries did everything he could do. He got right behind the bag in a quick release, but McGee can scoot, and he's got 25 stolen bases in 32 tries, and he is the potential tying run. Pedro Guerrero, the batter, rounded out his first time up. So this is where Dwight Gooden has had his problems a little bit. This is the Cardinal strategy: get a runner on, especially at speedster, and run against him.
And even with Pedro Guerrero in the batter's box, who's a home run threat, that's a long shot in Busch Stadium. So Joe Torre said he is going to run, and run some more. You know, a lot of times managers say, well, with my cleanup hitter up there, I'll let the runner be patient. I'll give the hitter a couple cracks. You don't do that very often in Busch Stadium.
There have been too many games this year when the Cardinals have scored 2 or fewer runs, and With this kind of an offense, you just can't sit and wait for the long ball. Nobody out, runner at first base. Mets lead 1-0. Fastball hit deep to left center field. Way back, looking up. This ball is gone. Home run, Guerrero. For Pedro Guerrero, and the Cardinals lead 2-1.
Well, like I said, you run. You don't sit back and let your cleanup hitter swing the bat, but he gets a nice low fastball from Doc Gooden. That's only the 6th one he's given up all year.
Isn't that great about baseball? But, you know, maybe they were going to run on the next pitch.
But he got it down in his zone. He can handle that low fastball about as well as anybody.
Todd Zeile, the batter, takes a fastball for a call strike. So the rare long ball here at Busch Stadium, and the Cardinals now lead the Mets 2-1 in the last of the 4th inning. Guerrero drove in 117 runs last year, 2nd in the league. Breaking ball, rounded foul down the 3rd base line. And the count to Todd Zeile is 2 strikes.
And you don't need many power hitters in this lineup. You got a Guerrero, but the rest of the guys, you manufacture a few runs with singles and stolen bases.
Maybe under Joe Torre, they're going to play crash and just hit long balls all of a sudden.
That's the kind of game Joe had to play, but I don't think he's going to have his team playing that way. Joe was the MVP here in 1971. Hit, many say, the hardest 363 that you could hit. You know, he was not a speedster, so he had to hit those line drives and earn it.
Fastball in tight. We have dark, ominous clouds starting to appear over where the arch is above the 3rd base roof of Busch Stadium, so we may have another shower before we're through here. Dwight Gooden rarely gives up a home run. Gave up one there to Guerrero. Well hit. Misses outside, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes to Todd Zeile. Nobody out. The Cardinals leading 2-1 now. Zeile has hit the most home runs ever by a Cardinal rookie catcher. He's got 11. Rounded to shortstop. Howard Johnson, and there's one away. Well, coming up next Friday, you're going to love this show. Pat O'Brien hosts a new offbeat and irreverent late-night show featuring guests from the sports and entertainment world. And premier night guests include John Madden, Isaiah Thomas, and Billy Crystal. Overtime will incorporate some features, satellite interviews, musical performances. I've worked with Pat for many years on our NBA broadcast, and he's got a lot of style, got a lot of personality, and hope you tune in to Overtime with Pat O'Brien next Friday night. Terry Pendleton fouls off the first pitch for a strike. Pendleton hit a looper into left field. Kevin McReynolds made a fine shoestring catch in the 2nd inning.
Another one of those free agents that I think Joe Torre will try to lure into staying here in St. Louis.
And why not? Another fastball fouled off. 0-2 the count. Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and a fine crowd on a Saturday afternoon where we've had some intermittent rain. This is Dick Stockton along with Jim Kaat. Cardinals leading the Mets 2-1. Mets coming in with a 1-game lead over the Pirates in the National League East Division, and had a 1-run lead till Pedro Guerrero homered here in the 4th inning.
Yeah, you don't have to make excuses for this Cardinal team. The numbers are there. They're in last place, but this is not a bad ball club. They've just been playing poorly.
How do you get bad after contending last season and winning the National League pennant in 1987? I mean, this is a club that has been solid throughout the years. In fact, Met-Cardinal rivalry has been legion throughout the 80s.
Yeah, early in the year, a little question mark on their pitching staff.
Swung on and missed. Strike 3. That'll be the 4th strikeout for Gooden.
And there was a little, I think, unsettled factor here with Tom Bernansky in the outfield, and both with Coleman, McGee, and Milt Thompson there. And finally they traded Bruno to Boston, brought in Lee Smith. That's a good acquisition. So this is a team that could turn around next year and be a contender without changing a lot of faces.
With that strikeout, Doc Gooden is now tied with David Cone for 2nd in the National League, 139 strikeouts. So Cone and Gooden, teammates, 2nd in the league, behind Ramon Martinez. Breaking ball misses to Rex Hudler. 2 down, bases clear. Cardinals with 2 runs in lead those Mets. Fouled straight back. 1-1 to Hudler, who struck out his first time.
With the Mets, one of the things I think that sometimes goes unnoticed, you look at baseball so much more as a business nowadays and statistics, but this team has a lot of fun. You know, they're talking with Johnny Franco and some of their players. This is a team that does a lot of things together, spends time together, great atmosphere in the clubhouse.
Running up to bunt and taking the pitch for a ball. They have a thing called the Supper Club, where the first night out on their road trips, a whole bunch of them go out and go to the best restaurant in a given town. And John Franco told us, I had a $700 bill the other night.
Well, see, they can afford that now. They can stick one guy with a tab, $700-800, no problem. When meal money was $8 a day, you didn't do that.
Hudler misses a fastball.
Well, you know, the Red Sox for years, the Boston Red Sox had a lot of talent, but they had an old baseball adage, 25 players, 25 calves. They never spent a lot of time together, and many thought that kept that team from doing as well as they could.
And even cab prices were lower then. Missing outside, you saw Gooden's pitch count, and the balls and strikes virtually even. Now he's 3-2 to Hudler, with 2 down here in the 4th inning. Youngest pitcher ever to win the Cy Young Award at age 20. 3-2, and Hudler strikes out on a curveball, so that's the 5th strikeout of the game for Gooden. He's number 2 in the league right now, but the Cardinals lead it 2-1.
Presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. Power Stick Antiperspirant, 24-hour protection in 1 stroke. And by Shell Oil Company. Stop by your nearest Shell station today.
Great statue of Stan Musial outside Busch Stadium in St. Louis. It has started to rain again here on an overcast afternoon. First pitch to Doc Gooden is low ball 1. Gooden flied out to left field his first time. Fly ball to right center, raining a little harder now. Milt Thompson calls for it. He makes the catch, 1 away in the Met 5th.
Well, here's where you discipline yourself as a pitcher. It's starting to rain. You need to pitch the 5th inning to make it an official game. But, you know, the showers come and go here. They can get the turf ready. So if you're Ken Hill, you just go ahead and pitch your own game. Don't try to rush through it and get 3 quick outs, because it'll backfire on you.
And we see patches of blue, as you see there, with the splendid Gateway Arch here in St. Louis. One of the heartland cities in Middle America. Howard Johnson. And that pitch got away from Hill, slipped out of his hand.
That's a real slip pitch, an indication of the moisture and the difficulty in gripping the ball. That just kind of squirted out.
Hill has allowed 1 run on 5 hits, has struck out 3, has not walked anybody. Fastball, and Hojo hits it to left field. Maybe trouble for Hudler. He dives, and it's past him, off the wall, and into second base, and now heading for third. Pendleton puts the tag on, and he's out. Howard Johnson is out at third.
What an effort by Rex Hudler. I mean, that's as close as he can come to catching that ball without catching it. But now here's the good play. He no sooner than hits the turf, but gets right back on his feet, retrieves the ball. Now, if you're a Met fan, you like to see aggressive base running. but not when you run into a tag from the left fielder. If the right fielder has to chase that ball down, he's got a little longer throw, but you're running right into the shortest throw, and Johnson is an easy out. Good play by Hudler.
Good hustle and good recovery. Pitch to Dave Magadan is in for a strike. So Johnson was looking at a two-base hit with Magadan and Jeffries and Strawberry to follow, but he tried to extend it and was out. The left fielder Hudler to Pendleton at third, and it wasn't close. Magadan is 1 for 2 with a double, and he scored the Met run. Raining the hardest it's rained all day right now. Grounded to Ozzie Smith. And that'll do it. No runs, a hit. And after 4 1/2, it's an official game. The Cardinals lead it 2-1. In their game in the 6th inning, 2-1.
Yeah, boy, they sneak up on Cincinnati and Lou Piniella. And his guys right now have got to fight squeezing the ball and squeezing the bat a little tighter, because that's not just any ball club chasing them. That's the defending champions of Roger Craig. You know, to see back in the race with that 8 victories in 10 games, and what a great job he's done kind of piecing that pitching staff together. They've had good offense and great defense all year, but it's getting the job done with the pitchers.
And Roger told us when we had the Giants at Wrigley Field, he says the history shows that the Reds do have a rough second half, and they haven't proven themselves, so he just wanted to hang in there with them. And I think they still have 8 games left, the two teams, before it'll be decided.
Well, they wanted to get it down inside of 5 games, and they have that. So, you know, if they could just stay right there and then get a chance to beat Cincinnati head-to-head, that's all they can ask for.
At the conclusion of today's game, Jim Kaat and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game, and Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's behalf to the Special Olympics. You think Hojo picked up some real estate in diving into third base?
Yeah, you don't see that very often on artificial surface. You think of that on a rainy day in a grass field, but Hojo with that head-first slide into third picked up a little extra mud. Another look at Rex Hudler's great throw and Terry Pendleton's good sweep tag. Out by plenty.
That's Rex Hudler getting an opportunity to play with Vince Coleman out of action with a strained hamstring and making the most of his opportunity. Jose Oquendo will lead off against Stockton Gooden in the bottom of the 5th inning, as Gooden does some house cleaning and getting some of that mud off of his spikes.
As scientific as the game gets, all they do is send out a good old-fashioned tongue depressor. However, the Cardinals have added something to their pitching mound. Right behind the mound is a little rubber mat that has some kind of nubby spikes on it that you can use to clean off your shoe, but Doc says, no, I'll use the old tongue depressor and dig that stuff out.
It's like something you use coming in after playing 18 holes of golf, right?
I wouldn't know about that.
You don't play in the rain. Gooden has allowed 2 runs on 4 hits, has struck out 5 batters. Jose Oquendo and Ken Hill, the pitcher, and then the top of the order, Milt Thompson, here in the 5th inning. Kendo fouled out to McReynolds in left field his first time. As that open stance. Ball 1. Former Met.
And a guy that, like Rex Hudler, a little more valuable than Hudler, of course, but can play so many different positions for the Cardinals, but has really settled in at second.
Fly ball at McReynolds in left field. And there's one away in the 5th inning. This is an official game. The lights have been turned on here at Busch Stadium. We've had 1 shower. And it's that kind of day, and the fans came prepared with the Bumbershoes. Here's the Cardinal pitcher, Ken Hill. Singled sharply to right field his first time up. Ball 1. Center fielder Darrell Boston moves a few steps over to right center. One and one.
See Gooden with that good pop on the fastball. Still consistently 95, 96 miles an hour. And the pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre has a yardstick that he uses for just about all of the Mets starters, and that's the pitch count.
Fastball grounded foul. Let's see what that count is right now.
Well, he's up to 55, and we're about halfway through the ball game. And now when Stottlemyre pitched, he didn't pay attention to how many pitches he threw, but he finds that with Gooden and Cone, they each have a level, a pitch count that they reach when they begin to become a little ineffective. For Doc Gooden, it's about 125 pitches. So he's got a ways to go. Boy, what a thrill for him. Both of his sons now pitching in the major leagues, Todd and Mel Jr.
Great sinker ball artist with the Yankees. 1-2 pitch, just low. Remember, he came up in 1964 when the Yankees and the White Sox and the Orioles were battling for the pennant. And Stottlemyre made the difference.
And ended up coming right in here to St. Louis, and the Cardinals got the best of them that year.
Ken Hill hanging in there against Doc Gooden. Count 2 balls and 2 strikes. 1 out. St. Louis hitting in the 5th inning, leading the Mets 2-1. Mets have out-hit the Cardinals 6-4. Gooden with a 9-game winning streak, longest in the National League this year. Fastball right on the outside corner, strike 3, and that's the 6th strikeout of the game for Gooden. 2 gone.
Well, you get hitters out a couple of different ways. Raw stuff, good location, change of speeds, or a deceptive motion. But what Doc Gooden does is he has that explosive fastball, great curve, but then look at the location of that pitch. I mean, that's unhittable. Outside corner. Hill says, yeah, I know it. I'd like to have the same call.
2 down to Milt Thompson. 0 for 2 today. Foul ball. There was a definite concern in the Met camp when Gooden had his last start pushed back a couple of days because of the stiffness in his shoulder. He was slipping on the wet mound a couple of weeks ago at Shea Stadium in a game against the Atlanta Braves. Curveball, and it's 1-1. So you wonder how he's thinking right now with the mound being a bit wet now.
Yeah, those are some of the obstacles that you're kind of aware of, but you have to overcome. You try to block them out of your mind.
Breaking ball up high.
And that's probably the pitch right there that these conditions would affect you. When you plant your foot, you want it to stick. If it slides a little, that's going to throw your control off just enough to be out of the zone.
Fastball drilled out of play. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Milt Thompson with 2 out. The corner for a strikeout. So Gooden has struck out 2 batters in each of the last 2 innings of this game. Well, here in this race, the Mets with a 1-game lead over Pittsburgh. What do you look for down the stretch?
Well, it's a little different than Oakland and Chicago. The White Sox have given Oakland a good battle, and Pittsburgh won't go away. I mean, they're a solid ball club, but when you look at the Mets and you can send a potential #1 starter to the mound every 5 days, like a Cone and a Viola and a Gooden and Fernandez and right on down the line, I just think head-to-head the Mets are a better ball club than Pittsburgh and are going to handle them. But some great signs for the Pirates, and there's one of them right there. Another of those near no-hitters. Seems like we've had dozens this year, but no disrespect for Jim Leland. He's done a great job. They have a solid club, but if you got to pick one, I like the Mets. And the Murph, maybe he'll get back on track. A little new scenery there in Philadelphia. Atlanta was a good home run ballpark, and Veterans Stadium is also.
Oh, we had Drabek and Candiotti coming close. This has been the year of the no-hitter and the near no-hitter. I think at last count, something like 8 or 10 pitchers lost no-hitters in the last inning. Well, I had to do some house cleaning on the mound for Ken Hill.
Yeah, and those things really are just coincidence. There's no way to predict why it happens. I mean, here's a year when everybody says pitching is down. The quality of pitching is down, and yet we've had a lot of near no-hitters.
Greg Jeffries leading off in the 6th inning. The Cardinals leading the Mets 2-1. It'll be Jeffries, Strawberry, and McReynolds, the heart of the Mets order. Switch hitter. Hitting about the same from both sides. Facing Ken Hill, looking for his 2nd win, takes ball 1. Greg Jeffries' temper reared its head Tuesday night. He threw his hands up in disgust when Dave Magadan failed to score on a single. He apologized. He's young, and it's one of the things he'll learn, but Magadan kind of likes that spunk in Jeffries, who's retired on the ground at Ogendo.
I think more so than ever before in the game of baseball, it used to be, you know, control your emotions, especially with pitchers. Don't let anybody see your emotions. But we're seeing more emotional type of players, and if it's channeled in the right direction, I think it's good. And Jeffries is one of them. I know that he rubbed some teammates the wrong way in past years, but I think they've accepted him right now, and he's a good player.
Darryl Strawberry 0 for 2. Takes a ball. Mets scored in the 3rd inning. A 1-out double by Dave Magadan and Greg Jeffries single. Strawberry hits it in the air, deep to left field. Going back is Hudler, and this is out of here. No, it's off the wall. Off the top of the wall, and in at second base with a double is Darryl Strawberry. That came close, but no cigar. And the tying run now for the Mets is at second.
About as close as you can come to hitting it out without having it go out. And Darryl Strawberry with the great power to the opposite field. Not many of the great power hitters have power to the opposite field. Bo Jackson does. Cal Daniels in this league has a lot of opposite field home runs. And that's why you see Hudler playing about normal depth and just hits below the yellow line out there in the left field wall. About as long a double as he's going to have this year.
That fan keeps dropping that soft drink onto the field. Here's Kevin McReynolds. Breaking ball in the dirt.
This is how close that was to being a home run. There you see the raindrops coming down out of the fans' cup, and then just off the top part of that wall in left center field.
Brings back memories. Al Smith in the '59 World Series at Comiskey Park. Looked up on a Charlie Neal home run and got sprayed with some wet stuff.
Isn't it amazing how those shots come back into your mind? You see that, and that's the first shot that flashes before your mind.
Fouled off. The count is 1-1 to McReynolds.
And most of the time you hit one this well, Darryl says, I hit one that well. I want a home run. They needed about another 1.5 feet.
Two to 1, the Cardinals lead. Pedro Guerrero's home run in the 4th inning, giving them the advantage. But now with 1 out, Strawberry's at second. 1-1 to McReynolds. Swings and misses on the breaking pitch.
That double by Strawberry is an example of this ballpark and how comfortable you can be as a pitcher. You know, you go into an indoor stadium, short fences where the ball jumps, or Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, and you have a tendency against a home run hitting team to kind of nibble and pitch cautiously. But see, in this ballpark, Hill doesn't have to do that. He's going right after it.
Lays off the breaking ball, 2-2. McReynolds 1 for 2 with a single. Breaking pitch, and Hill has his 4th strikeout of the game, and there are 2 away. Big out for Hill.
Well, there's not a lot of magic or mystery to it as an inexperienced pitcher. When you begin to get your breaking ball pitch over the plate and you show big league hitters you can do it, now they got to be ready for the 90-plus fastball, and then to try to wait and lay off the breaking ball is a tough job.
McReynolds is retired, and that'll bring up Mackey Sasser, who is 2 for 2 this afternoon. Pair of base hits. Pair of singles. Takes ball 1 inside. Barry Lyons was the catcher who replaced Gary Carter, now with the Giants. He was out with a back injury sent to Tidewater, and the Mets decided they didn't want to bring Lyons back as a substitute or a 3rd catcher. But Sasser has won the position. That's why. Ground ball through the box into center field. Strawberry rounds 3rd. They're going to wave him in. Here comes the throw to the plate, up the line, and Strawberry is in with the run that ties the game at 2-2. And for Mackey Sasser, his 3rd hit of the game and his 35th RBI of the season.
Well, and doing what you should do at Busch Stadium if you're not a home run hitter. You see him slipping coming out of the box right there, but he hit the ball on the ground. Hit it on the ground and hit it hard. You get a lot of base hits here. That's 3 for 3, and I think Sasser may have injured his leg just slightly trying to get out of the box. The throw to home late, and Strawberry slides in easily with a tying run.
There's Sasser. The Mets, by the way, did add a third catcher, and Alex Trevino, who had been with them before, was signed as a free agent yesterday. That'll bring up Darryl Boston. 0 for 2. Now the Mets have tied it with a run here in the 6th inning. 2-2. Boston takes up high ball 1. Pendleton made a fine diving stab in foul territory. Sparkling defensive play in the 4th inning for the Cardinals against Boston. Two balls and no strikes.
That's one of those cases there, Sasser's base hit, where you avid baseball fans might say, well, why didn't he walk Sasser with first base open? He already got 2 hits. He got Boston out twice. But 6th inning of a ball game, the way you're pitching as Ken Hill is, you don't pitch defensively. You got good stuff, and chances are you're going to get Sasser out a high percentage of the time.
Especially since Darryl Boston is hitting .433 against Cardinal pitching, and so they're aware of those numbers as well.
Although each pitcher, I think, likes to, we've got all the numbers available, what guys hit against certain teams and against certain pitchers, but when you're out there in the mound with the ball in your hand, you have a feel for who you'd rather pitch to, and that's what you have to go by.
Ken Hill from Lynn, Massachusetts, suburb of Boston. Ground ball to the right side. That'll get through for a base hit. Sasser will stop at second. Thompson retrieves it. So Darryl Boston with his first hit of the game, and that is hit number 9 for the Mets. And runners are at first and second for Tom O'Malley.
Nothing stirring in the Cardinal bullpen yet, though there might be soon. But I think one of the reasons Joe Torre has been patient, they have 9 hits, but with the exception of Strawberry's extra base hit, they've been kind of ground balls off the turf in the hole. They haven't really been driving the ball.
Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, comes out to the mound, and there will be activity in the Cardinal bullpen, and Ken Daly gets up.
Mike Rourke caught some great ones and has coached some great ones. In fact, during the Cardinal glory years here in the early 80s, Bruce Sutter was the ace reliever out of the bullpen, and Mike Rourke was almost his personal pitching coach that would fly in and work with Bruce from time to time, back from their days with the Chicago Cubs. As you mentioned in talking with him before the game, he caught Jim Bunning in Detroit.
Don Mossy, Frank Larry, pretty good triumvirate there. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. CBS Sports bringing you Major League Baseball. Mets and Cardinals all tied up 2-2 in the top of the 6th. The Mets have tied it here and have a threat going. Joe Torre, in his 3rd game as manager of the Cardinals, took over from the interim man, Red Schoendienst. Here's Ken Daly. Keep in mind that the Mets are only .500 against Cardinals, against left-handed starters, and the Mets have no left-handed pinch hitters on the bench today.
And of course, Joe Torre a little bit strapped because he would like not to use Lee Smith today. He's used him the last couple games.
Tom O'Malley 0 for 2 takes strike 1.
Here's where I think it's important with a runner on second base for your outfield to get a little bit shallow, and the reverse of that is Mackey Sasser's got to get a step or 2 off second base a little farther to score on a base hit here.
2 on and 2 out in the Mets 6th inning. In for a strike, 0-2. So now O'Malley's in a hole. Doc Gooden is the on-deck hitter. And of course, there's the element of the several runners, including Sasser at the plate, slipping.
Yeah, see, and you slip out of the box, and also Sasser, as you mentioned, the sliding pit at second base, footing not quite as good, but especially in left field, if you're Hudler, you want to cheat in or 2 a step. If the ball's hit to you, you got to have a shot at throwing Sasser out.
Outside, Sasser actually is not standing around the dirt area. When he takes his lead, he is taking a lead behind it on the artificial turf.
See, with those mud in your spikes, with that mud in your spikes, even on the turf, footing will be a little tougher.
The outfield is playing shallow all the way around for O'Malley. As you mentioned, in the breaking pitch, fouled at the plate. Besides Ken Daly, well, who's warming up now, that's who Joe Torre has in the bullpen.
Tom Niedenfuhr, the right-hander, and Lee Smith, he'd rather not use him. Scott Terry.
Mets 2 and the Cardinals 2 in the 6th inning. Mackey Sasser driving in the tying run. He's at second. Darrell Boston at first. O'Malley calling time. Lays off the pitch up. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, this is the pitch if you're Ken Hill. You want to get the out on this pitch right here. You don't want to go to 3-2 and give the runners a little extra step with the pitch. That gives Boston a chance to score from first base if he goes to 3-2.
You don't want to put the go-ahead runner on third either, even though the pitcher's coming up next, because Dwight Gooden makes good contact. You don't want to fool around with that. Here's the 2-2 pitch outside, and that's exactly what Hill did not want to see happen. The count is full, and the runners will be off on the pitch with 2 away.
Now that's a lot into the 6th inning. 91. But I think Joe Torre's got to be thrilled with the job he got out of Ken Hill so far today, figuring here was a guy who wasn't even going to start this series. Only got the chance because of the injury to Joe McGrain. Studying that game, you see the intensity in the eyes we mentioned earlier. That was Torre's motto. Be intense without being tense.
And the runners are off at 3-2, and O'Malley strikes out to retire the side. So the Mets tie it, and we'll return to Busch Stadium after this word from your local station. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
Another good crowd on hand at Busch Stadium despite being in last place, and that's another thing Joe Torre mentioned in taking. This is such a great baseball city and franchise. They do things the right way. Winning has always been at the top of their list, and he's got to convince them that that's what they have to get back to. You know, Whitey Herzog did that in the early 80s.
Well, you remember when Whitey came onto the scene.
He came in for the late Ken Boyer. You talk about changing the atmosphere in a clubhouse, and Whitey with an infusion of energy and took charge and went to Mr. Busch and said, hey, you want to win one more time? This is what it'll take. He went out and got Ozzie Smith, Darrell Porter, Bruce Sutter. 82, the World Championship flag flew here. And now I don't know whether the company, the St. Louis Cardinals, is willing to do the same thing for Joe Torre and Dal Maxfield. We'll find out.
That seems to be the question. Ozzie Smith, one of the players you referred to, switch hitter leading off in the 6th inning, 0 for 2. Tom O'Malley playing in at third base. The first pitch missing, ball 1. Smith was caught looking in the 1st inning and fly to right. There's the left side of the Mets infield. Mets have out hit the Cardinals 9-4, but the runs are all even at 2-2. Just a bit high, and it's 2-0 to Ozzie Smith. Age may be catching up. He's been bothered by leg injuries. Great reputation as a clutch hitter. He's worked at it, and a link to those Cardinal championship teams.
Boy, what a tough position to play on AstroTurf year after year.
Swing and a miss. 2-1.
You know, on the ground that Ozzie covers, and he's just not your average shortstop, and the tumbles he takes on that turf. See him shaking his head down at Rich Hacker. Said, yeah, I know I should have taken it. He doesn't want to chase the high fastball off Gooden. He wants to get something he can beat on the turf.
Gooden has allowed 4 hits. One of them was a 2-run homer by Pedro Guerrero. Fastball is on the corner. Evens the count, 2-2.
7 punch outs in there, and the same number of ground balls and fly balls, but I think by reputation you'd call Doc Gooden a fly ball pitcher, not a ground ball pitcher.
Gooden stepped off the rubber that time. Slap to the left side. O'Malley cutting in front of Howard Johnson. The runner is out. Good play by Dave Magadan on the throw in the dirt. That was close, and the crowd doesn't agree with the call.
Well, no pictures, just numbers, and that's what it is. Number 1 out. O'Malley did not play it particularly well, but another example of the way that Magadan has improved at first base. Of course, he's not going to be another Keith Hernandez there. Was there for so many years. Very few play it better than Hernandez, but Magadan has done a great job, and he did handling that errant throw.
So O'Malley playing third base today. Kevin Elster, tendonitis in his shoulder, getting a breather. So Howard Johnson moving over to short. As Willie McGee fouls off the breaking ball. He's 1 for 2. Safe on an infield hit. Came around on Guerrero's home run in the 4th inning. There's Pedro waiting to hit. 2-2 between the Mets and the Cardinals, playing the last of the 6th inning. On basically an overcast day in St. Louis. Curveball over Gooden's head. Charging it is Jeffries, and not in time. No way they were going to get McGee, who beats out another infield hit. Hit number 5 against Dwight Gooden. Last time up, Pedro Guerrero sent this downtown with a man on.
And he knew it. Low fastball. When you get all of it in Busch Stadium, that's a poke.
That gave the Cardinals a 2-1 lead. The Mets have tied it up in the top of the 6th. And now Guerrero, who has 12 homers and 67 runs batted in. McGee is at first. 25 stolen bases. The Mets aware of that. Infield plays him to pull, the outfield straight away. McGee gets back.
The other thing that Joe Torre would keep in mind here with sending Willie McGee is if he does that, first base is then open. And Buddy Harrelson is apt to say, well, let's walk Guerrero and we'll take a shot at the rookie Todd Zeile. That might be one reason that he would keep Willie from trying to steal.
Who would you rather have up there, Guerrero or Zeile?
I think I'd rather have Guerrero if I was Joe Torre.
Grounded base hit to right field. McGee had to hesitate, but he's scooting around to third. And the throw comes back in. And the Cardinals have runners at the corners with 1 out. Guerrero with a hit, and even though McGee had to hold up for the ground ball, he has enough speed to get to third anyway.
Now, Pedro Guerrero is not just a home run hitter. See, there's a pitch that he knew he couldn't pull, but he took what Doc Gooden gave him. Fastball low away, hits it the other way, and with Willie McGee's speed, the Cardinals have the lead run on third base easily.
So the go-ahead run is at third with McGee. Guerrero at first, 1 out, and Todd Zeile, who is 1 for 2. Single to left. Grounded to short. Mets infield looking for the double play grounder. And there it is. One hopper back to the mound. Gooden will go to third to try to get McGee, and he's safe. And Gooden had a chance for the double play and decided to go after the runner at third. McGee got back safely, and Buddy Harrelson is out of the dugout to argue.
Yeah, these things happen so quickly that as a pitcher, if you haven't thought ahead of time what you're going to do, you've got no chance to make the play. Now, Harrelson's going to take up the argument, but this ball gets back to Gooden so quickly, if he just turns and goes to second base, they're out of the inning. But Doc's first thought was trap McGee off third. And the slide right there shows Paul Runge made the right tag. Willie McGee gets the slide in ahead of the tag by Tom O'Malley because the throw was a little bit high. Look at the lead foot. Just gets in before O'Malley tags McGee on the helmet. So there's again a defensive play. The Mets have not been outstanding defensively this year. There's not an error, but a chance where they give the Cardinals a couple of extra outs.
That'll be called a fielder's choice, and the bases are loaded, so the Mets have made a couple of mental errors today. There's McGee at third, Pedro Guerrero at second, Todd Zeile at first, Terry Pendleton, who is 0 for 2, the batter, One was when Howard Johnson decided to stretch a double into a triple on a ball hit to left. And the other was right here when Gooden, instead of going right to second for an inning double play, tried to get McGee, and now the bases are loaded. Pendleton, a switch hitter, lines it to right center field. That's going to get a couple in for sure. All the way to the wall. McGee will score. Guerrero will score. And they're going to wave in Todd Zeal, and he will come in. A 3-run double for Terry Pendleton. And a 5-2 game.
Well, it seems like they're having fun again in St. Louis. Pendleton takes advantage of Gooden's mental lapse really on the mound, gets a fastball out away from him, and pulls this ball into right center field. Now the Cardinals have had trouble scoring runs. Their pitching has been good, but they've not scored 5 runs very often. But on a normal day, with the kind of pitching they have, this should be enough for them to win.
For Pendleton, RBIs number 51, 52, and 53. Still one out, and Rex Hudler, who has struck out twice against Doc Gooden this afternoon. Takes up high. So the Cardinals, with 3 runs in here in the 6th, have regained the lead over the Mets 5-2. The Mets have Wally Whitehurst warming up in their bullpen. Outfield around to the right. Pitch in for the strike, 1-1 to Hudler. There's Wally Whitehurst.
Wally Whitehurst, a guy eventually will be a part of the Mets starting rotation, product of the University of New Orleans. They call him Wally the Whip. He's got that nice loose arm, good movement on the fastball, and really starting pitchers type stuff. Fastball, curveball, and a slider.
Howard Johnson trying to sneak behind Pendleton. Pitch in the dirt. Sasser blocks it. No advance. 2 balls and a strike to Rex Hudler. Pendleton with a base clearing double here in the 6th inning. And the Cardinals leading 5-2. Trying to improve upon the worst record at home in the National League. They're 8 games under 500 coming into this one.
They thought they had last night's wrapped up. Lee Smith took them out in the 9th 2-run lead. Mets got 5 singles and beat them.
2 balls and a strike. Broken bat. Nubber. Jeffries off balance. Making the tag is Magadan. Fine play by Magadan on a wild throw. And they've made the tag for the 2nd out. Going to 3rd is Pendleton. Tough play all the way around for the Mets.
Good heads-up effort by Rex Hudler. He sees the throws offline, and he's going to dive underneath. Yes, Magadan did get him right on the back. And Magadan continues to look good over there with a glove. Few thought that he would do that defensively.
Pendleton advances to 3rd with 2 out. Ken Daly is back up throwing again in the Cardinal bullpen. Joe Torre may be thinking that Ken Hill has given him all he's going to give him for an afternoon, although Hill is in the on-deck circle right now. Here's Jose Oquendo. Takes a fastball for a strike. 2 out, runner at 3rd. Cardinals with 3 runs in, leading 5-2 for Joe Torre in his 3rd game as manager.
You know, Doc Gooden is tough to hit. He's easy to steal off from because he has that big motion. And if you're Jose Oquendo right now, if you can just drag the ball past the mound, you got a hit and an RBI.
Swing and a miss on that off-speed delivery, and it's 0-2 to Oquendo, who's been retired twice today.
See, he's got very little chance to hit that curveball, but bunting is something you don't see players try as often anymore. Rod Carew was one of the greatest 2-strike bunters in history, but when you see the first baseman, second baseman playing back, a lot of left-handers just try to pull that, try to drag it.
Doc Gooden is scheduled to lead off for the Mets in the 7th inning. So Ken Daly has been warming up, and if they go to Daly, the Mets have no left-handed or right-handed. Pinch hitters, ground ball 3rd. Blocked nicely by O'Malley. The throw across in time to retire the side. But 3 runs come across on Pendleton's bases loaded double. Well, if you look at the lineup card in the dugout, Bud Harrelson has a bunch of righties, no lefties. So if the Cardinals come in with a right-handed relief pitcher, he wouldn't be able to counter with anybody if he needed him. And right now, Ken Hill remains on the mound, and we'll have a pinch hitter for Doc Gooden. It'll be Keith Miller. His batting average is the best since his brief fling back in 1987. 5-2, the Cardinals lead. Playing the top of the 7th inning. Bluffs a bunt and takes ball 1. Miller hitting .297. Homer and 8 runs batted in. Miller now will be the platoon center fielder along with Darrell Boston in center field with Mark Carrion in a slump. 2-0.
And you see right now the patient approach by Keith Miller. He's up there for one reason, to get on base. He doesn't care if it's by a hit or get hit with a pitch. So he's going to take a little more patient approach against Ken Hill, make him work.
Top of the order, Howard Johnson is on deck. Pitch is in for a strike, 2-1.
You know, if the Cardinals are down 3 runs, a little different story. They don't have that home run power except for Guerrero. But the Mets down 3, you get a couple of base runners. They've got some guys in there that can hit it out of the ballpark. There's one of them.
Howard Johnson, and then Dave Magadan, and that hit him. So Miller is hit by a pitch, runs down to first base. So the Mets with a leadoff man on here in the top of the 7th inning.
Well, an early indication, or not really that early, 7th inning, but an indication to Joe Torre and Mike Rourke that maybe things might be getting away from Ken Hill a little bit, because that's a situation where he certainly wasn't trying to throw that pitch inside. He's trying to throw it right down the middle of the plate for a strike.
Howard Johnson coming up. There is Miller on at first base. Ken Daly throwing again in the bullpen, the left-hander for the Cardinals. Mets also have activity in their bullpen. Wally Whitehurst, who also was up before. Howard Johnson, 1 for 3, double to the opposite field his last time up. Breaking ball and hit it in the air to center field. Willie McGee is under it. And that'll be the first out for the Mets here in the 7th. Here's Ken Daly.
And probably not for just a left-hander. Ken Daly's got the kind of stuff that he can come in against lefties or righties.
Two. What a luxury for the Cardinals to have as many as 5 runs at this stage of the game.
And the only player on the Cardinal team that actually had experience playing for Joe Torre as a manager. Daly was in Atlanta in his early years when Torre managed there.
Dave Magadan with a double and a run scored. Ken Hill's pitch misses inside. 1-0. Magadan is 1 for 3. Tim Tuffle, he had a dramatic home run with 2 out to tie up the Mets game against Montreal this past week. And then the Mets won in 12, and they've got those rally caps on, with those caps on backward.
Got the Supper Club and the rally caps. Another influence, I think, of what college baseball, how they've influenced professional baseball, because you see all the college teams with those rally caps, and now it's transferred right up to the big show.
Joe Torre is going to go out to the mound making the slow walk, and he has already signaled for Ken Daly. So he's making his move there. Ken Hill should get a hand as he leaves. Daly is the new pitcher. Hill gets a hand, and we'll be back to Busch Stadium in a moment.
Is sponsored by Rolaids.
Ken Daly is aboard now. He had a career high at 12 saves last season. Pretty good strikeout pitcher coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, and that's a big difference for the Cardinals this year. Last year, Daly and the core of middle relievers did a great job for the Cardinals. This year, it hasn't been the same. Higher ERA, and not as many saves, haven't held leads like this as often. There's some guys that have.
Other top relievers, Dennis Eckersley, Bobby Thigpen, Franco, of course, with the Mets, and a former Met,
Randy Myers.
Dave Magadan in the batter to count 2 balls and no strikes. Daly with only 1 save. Facing Magadan and takes a fastball for a strike. Runner at first base. Keith Miller, who was hit by a pitch. 1 out. 1 on. We're in the 7th inning. The Cardinals leading 5-2. Chuck Hiller, the third base coach. Three balls and a strike.
See, even with a 3-run lead, Joe Torre gets Daly into this game where he's got a little margin for error. The big man he has to face this inning would be Darryl Strawberry. He'd like to keep from facing him if he gets these next 2 guys out.
Jeffries on deck as a switch hitter. But then comes Strawberry. 3-1 pitch, grounded up the middle, through into center field for a base hit. Magadan singles. On his way to third is Keith Miller. No throw as it comes into second. And the Mets now with runners at first and third and 1 out, and the tying run will come to the plate.
Well, just right back through the middle. Magadan proving that he can hit lefties as well as righties, and just getting to be a better hitter every day in that Met lineup. No damage on the drop ball there by Willie McGee. And Miller gets into third base easily. He'd have been there whether McGee fielded that cleanly or not.
Now the Cardinal pitching coach Mike Rourke is going to make another trip to the mound. Tom Niedenfuhr has started to throw in the Cardinal bullpen. They've got Jeffries, who will be batting right-handed, and then Strawberry to follow. They don't want to make a mistake with Jeffries, who has some power, has hit 13 home runs this year.
Yeah, and a combination of talking over with Ken Daly the pitching strategy as you watch Tom Niedenfuhr warm up, and also giving him a little bit of time to get ready. Joe Torre has to rely on his coaches like Mike Rourke in situations like this. How much time does it take my reliever to get ready? Can this guy get ready quick, or does this one need a little more time? Or I'm sure in the decision to lift Ken Hill, he consulted with Mike Rourke.
Of course, there's some wonderment as we look at Darryl Strawberry as to what Joe Torre's plans are going to be as far as his coaches. They'll coach the rest of the year. Of course, he's had Bob Gibson, the Cardinal pitching great, as his pitching coach both in New York with the Mets and Atlanta. So that's going to be a speculation that'll be about.
Sure, and that's something, you know, Joe Torre will use his coaches from here to the end of the year to find out information about the Cardinals, but I think all of them expect that he'll bring in his own staff, one that he wants.
Greg Jeffries batting right-handed for the first time today, takes a fastball outside. He's hitting the same from both sides, but a threat at the plate. Mets with runners at first and third and 1 out, trailing 5-2. Here in the 7th, they've out-hit the Cardinals 10-7. Fly ball to center field, and Willie McGee has a play. Tagging up is Keith Miller. He'll score easily. The throw comes into second base. And it's now a 5-3 game. And for Jeffries, his 51st RBI of the year. Dick Stockton and Jim Kaat here as the Cardinals and the Mets battle it out. Busch Stadium in St. Louis, a fine throng on hand. And the Cardinals with 3 runs in the last of the 6th inning, and the Mets trying to come back as they have done so many times this year. Now Darryl Strawberry, lefty facing lefty, 1 for 3 with a double and a run scored.
Yeah, the Mets begin to get that feeling that if we're close, we're going to come back and win the game. They've won 2 of their last 3 games with 2 out in the 9th inning by coming back.
And they have come back from behind 24 times all season. Breaking ball. Bailey wanted that pitch. 1-0 the count. Two 2-0 now to Strawberry. And
see, that's the threat of the long ball. You see Daly pitching very, very carefully. Curveball in the dirt, fastball up. If he loses him, you're probably going to get Niedenfuhr against Kevin McReynolds.
He got a fastball up and a pop-up to the right side of the infield. Jose Oquendo. And that'll do it. But the Mets get a run, and after 6.5 here in St. Louis, it's the Cardinals 5 and the Mets 3. Well, we've talked a lot of Jose Canseco, and next week you'll see him Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern. It'll be the Yankees against the Athletics. Some of you will see the White Sox and the Rangers as Ozzie Guillen, who beat the Brewers with a bases loaded single last week, tries to keep Chicago in the race. That's next Saturday on CBS Sports. The new Met pitcher is Wally Whitehurst. Whitehurst is making his 22nd appearance of the year, all in relief. He has 2 saves, a 1-0 record. Ken Daly with a comebacker. And there's 1 away. So Dwight Gooden worked 6 innings today, allowed 5 runs on 7 hits, struck out 7, and did not walk a batter.
And this game is a good example of these 2 ball clubs. You think about the Mets' great starting pitching, but yet the Mets are not a 500 ball club or better until they score 5 runs. And we talk often about the swing run. That's the run that a team needs to score before they're better than a 500 ball club. And that run for the Mets is 5.
Bill Thompson, who is 0 for 3, takes ball 1. And you pointed out, despite the Met pitching as deep as you'll find, as good as you find in the league, they need runs to win. Slash to left field for a base hit. So Milt Thompson goes the other way with his first hit of the game, and the 8th hit for the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals are just the opposite. They score 3 runs or better. They're a better than 500 ball club, and that tells you what? Tells you that even though the Mets starting pitching has that great reputation, really the Cardinals starters have been more effective over the entire season so far.
Ozzie Smith, who was hitless in 3 trips, the batter. So the Cardinals always looking for breathing room, leading by 2 runs. Milt Thompson, who has 17 stolen bases in 19 tries, the runner at first. Smith makes good contact, and there goes Thompson. The pitch taken low, the throw to second base, safe. Sasser got rid of it in a hurry, but Milt Thompson got a good jump, and he can fly.
Boy, and before you say, wow, they stole a base on Mackey Sasser, you can't do it any better than Mackey Sasser did right there. Thompson got a great jump, never looked up, and the late slide he gets in just ahead of that throw. But Sasser delivered that ball as quickly and accurately as you possibly can.
Count is 1-0 to Smith. Ground ball hit to the left side. Howard Johnson's play is to first, as Thompson goes to third, and they're 2 away. Actually, Sasser gained a lot of notoriety by throwing out Vince Coleman twice this year after Coleman had stolen 57 straight bases against the Mets.
And that made Coach Doc Edwards very, very proud. He comes out here on most days and works with Sasser. You know, like a lot of ball players, the talent is there, the arm is there, but it's the little mechanics, maybe striding the right way or getting on top of the ball a little bit more that they've worked with Sasser, and he's become a better thrower.
Willie McGee has collected infield hits his last 2 times up, has scored 2 runs. Curveball and a fly ball hit to left center field. Kevin McReynolds is back there, and that'll do it. There was a hit and a runner left at third, and we've completed 7 with the Cardinals in front 5-3. Well, everybody wants to play for a champion, and Jim Kaat, as you know, pitched in the World Series with the Twins in '65. But this was the year you'll always remember because you got a ring to show for it.
Yeah, I don't care how many games you win or how long you play, but it's getting that World Series ring. That's what you play for right there, that ring, and that makes it all worthwhile. And there's a couple guys out on the field yet with the Cardinals that had a hand in it. Willie McGee and Ozzie Smith, 2 of the few that are still here with that from that championship team.
After all the years you pitched in baseball, and you went beyond, of course, 1982, can you describe finally getting to that point?
Well, I was sitting down in that bullpen with Coach Dave Ricketts down the first baseline when it went to the bottom of the 9th inning. Bruce Sutter pitching, and you can't imagine the thoughts that go through your mind about the bus rides in Superior, Nebraska, and the couple years in the minor leagues, and never thinking it would happen after 25 years, and finally realizing it. A great emotional experience.
You deserved it. Kevin McReynolds takes strike 2. McReynolds is 1 for 3, has singled and struck out twice. Alex Trevino has grabbed a bat, and he is in the on-deck circle for the Mets. He would be pinch hitting for Mackey Sasser, despite the fact that Sasser had 3 hits, that off of Ken Hill, the right-hander who started the game and is the pitcher of record for the Cardinals.
Alex Trevino came to the Mets under current Cardinal manager Joe Torre. Joe kind of broke him in.
Ground ball to the left side. Pendleton. And McReynolds is retired. One away in the 8th inning. Cardinals leading the Mets 5-3. Two-run homer by Pedro Guerrero gave the Cardinals a 2-1 lead. Mets tied it up, and then Terry Pendleton's 3-run double in the 6th inning broke the tie. The Mets got a run back. But a couple of mental mistakes by the Mets have hurt them. One on the bases, trying to stretch a double into a triple. Howard Johnson was out at third, and chance for a double play to end the inning. They tried for the runner at third, and Willie McGee got back. Here's Alex Trevino. Signed as a veteran free agent after hitting 182 for the Astros this year in 42 games. Ken Daly in relief of Ken Hill. Fly ball out of play. You know, you're right about Joe Torre and Trevino, and asked about whether Torre would be good with young players. Said to me, he's like my second father. He took me under his wing. Came to the major leagues. I was only 20 years old and really brought me along and developed me well.
And that's the kind of image that I think Joe Torre will have. I said they nicknamed him the Godfather, and it kind of fits him. You know, he has that fatherly presence about him.
1-1 pitch up high. Another pinch hitter is due on deck. Mark Carrion. Darrell Boston, left-handed batter, scheduled to hit Carrion. There he is. One out. The count is 2 balls and a strike to Alex Trevino. And now Daly falls behind 3-1. Ken Hill worked 6 1/3 innings, gave up 3 runs on 9 hits, struck out 5, didn't walk anyone, and hit a batter. Fly ball right field. Milt Thompson makes the catch for the second out. So Trevino, the pinch hitter, is retired, and Mark Carrion will come in and bat now for Darrell Boston.
About the fairest way you can judge a starting pitcher is a quote quality start. You give your team 6+ innings and hold the other team to 3 earned runs or less. You've done a good job, and the Cardinals have done that more often than the Mets. They just haven't scored as many runs.
So here's Mark Carrion, who's always a threat to go long as a pinch hitter. He has 5 pinch hit home runs, 1 away from the Mets' all-time record. He's been mired in a batting slump lately. Takes ball 1. Carrion hitting .252, 10 homers and 24 runs batted in. Tim Tuffle has grabbed a bat, and he's now come out on the on-deck circle. If Carrion can get aboard, Tuffle will bat for Tom O'Malley. There's Tim.
Well, they can run all those right-hand hitters up there against Ken Daly, but chances are it comes down to that 9th inning. It's going to be the top of the order, and Joe Torre's decision is going to be, do I stay with Daly or do I bring in my big horse Lee Smith for the 3rd straight night against a Strawberry or a Magadan?
Check swing into the Cardinal dugout. Count to Mark Carrion. Ball and 2 strikes. Dad, of course, was a catcher with the Chicago White Sox, among other clubs in the American League.
The late Camilo Carrion.
Played under those teams managed by Al Lopez that had very little thump with a lot of speed.
He had some good pitchers to catch over there. Tommy John, Gary Peters, Johnny Bazart, Joel Horland.
Swung on and missed. Strike 3. Carrion strikes out, and a 1-2-3 inning for Ken Daly. So we go to the last of the 8th inning. Cardinals leading 5-3. Cardinals coming to bat in the last of the 8th inning. Mark Carrion replaces Darrell Boston in center field. New catcher is Alex Trevino. And Pedro Guerrero, who has a 2-run homer and a single and has scored 2 runs, leading off in the last of the 8th inning. First pitch, fly ball to right field to Darryl Strawberry. Handles it for out number 1. Next Friday, overtime with Pat O'Brien. Premieres next Friday. You won't want to miss it. 11:30 Eastern Time and Pacific. John Madden, CBS broadcaster, and bon vivant, along with Isaiah Thomas and Billy Crystal will be there.
I'm going to take a little nap, set my alarm clock, make sure I'm up for that baby. I don't want to miss him.
So overtime with Pat O'Brien debuts next Friday night. Todd Zeile, 1 for 3 with a single, was also safe on a fielder's choice. Wally Whitehurst was recalled from Tidewater, the Mets AAA farm club, in mid-June in relief of Doc Gooden. Ground ball into the hole, base hit. Zeile with his second hit. And the second hit off of Whitehurst.
Well, if Joe Torre could manufacture an extra run here in this inning, that would be a bonus. I mean, you figure with this staff, if you score 5, you better hold them and win most of your games, because that's a lot for the Cardinals. You see Joe flashing the signs to third base coach Rich Hacker, just in case they might try to start the runner.
Terry Pendleton, the batter. He's been the hero for the Cardinals with a base clearing double with the bases loaded in the 6th inning, driving in 3 runs to break a 2-2 tie. Switch hitter has been batting left-handed, takes ball 1. This was the 6th inning with the bases loaded and a shot into the gap. Scored everybody. That was after Doc Gooden tried to get Willie McGee at third with a double play possibility. That set that up. So the Cardinals leading 5-3 to throw to first base, and Zeile is back.
Oftentimes the best pitch you'll get to hit as a hitter, and especially off Doc Gooden, might be the first one. Pendleton looked like he guessed fastball, got it, and ripped it.
Pendleton had 3 hits last night, so he has impressed the new skipper. Runner goes, and protecting the runner, he hit a very tough pitch just about inside by about 2 feet inside that plate.
Well, you got to sacrifice as a hitter when that sign is on, and Terry Pendleton does. You have one responsibility: put the bat on the ball. I don't care where it is, even if you have to throw it. And Terry Pendleton has to jump out of the way and hit a left-handed sand wedge just to get the barrel of the bat on the ball.
He looked like a cricket player there.
Pete Dawkins.
A lot of runs scored in that sport. 1-1 to Pendleton. Curveball grounded to the right side. Jeffries looked to second, makes the only play to first for the second out. Zeile advances, and there are 2 gone. Mets have out-hit the Cardinals throughout the game, but now it's close, 10-9 on the board.
Well, a harmless ground ball right there. Jeffries checks second. Would have been a dangerous play. Takes the sure out, but all Joe Torre wanted was one more runner into scoring position. You go to that last inning, and if you do have to face a Darryl Strawberry with a man or 2 on, you'd like to have that 1 extra run.
Red Sox and Giants victors this afternoon, putting more pressure on the Reds, who host San Diego tonight. Right now it's 4 games that the Reds lead the Giants in the National League West. Here's Rex Hudler with 2 out. Curveball misses. Hudler is 0 for 3 today. Tuffle figures to lead off as a pinch hitter. We'll have 2 more pinch hitters coming up, as you mentioned, and then the top of the order. Trouble. Kevin McReynolds looks up, and it is upper deck home run for Rex Hudler. Only his 3rd home run of the year. Rex Hudler. RBIs number 7 and 8, and the Cardinals pad their lead.
Wow, they're going to call him prime time. I mean, he gets a hanging breaking ball there from Wally Whitehurst. He has not hit many, as you mentioned. That's just his 3rd this year. But last year, when a member of the Expos, he hit one in a nationally televised game off John Franco. So he picks his spots. Boy, that's 2 big ones for the Cardinals.
And it's 7-3 St. Louis as Oquendo takes a call strike. So where's the speed? Where's Vince Coleman? Coleman sits the game out, and the Cardinals get a pair of 2-run homers. Out of character today for the Redbirds.
One of the beautiful things about this game, I mean, if you're Doc Gooden, you say, well, we got a break. Vince Coleman's out of the lineup. Not a base-stealing threat. Rex Hudler's in there. He throws Johnson out at third on a key play at that time, and now a big 2-run homer. Didn't even figure to be in the lineup today.
Fouls off the curve. So when he whooped it up in the clubhouse, when he was in the lineup, he took care of his side of the bargain.
Well, he adds a little fire and spirit to this Cardinal ball club.
Cardinals looking to get out of the cellar. Came in trailing the Cubs by 2 games, who are just ahead of them in the standings. And everyone wants to look good in front of the new manager who's got a lot of decisions to make. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs to Jose Oquendo. Off the glove of Whitehurst. Jeffries off balance makes the play. So that'll be 1, 4, and 3. But a Hudler 2-run drive adds to the Cardinal lead. All right, the latest in the American League races. The Red Sox, who won today, now lead Toronto by 2. Baltimore by 5. Oakland with a 3.5 game lead over Chicago. And in the National League, James.
And the Mets just up by a game over the Pirates. They won't go away. Cincinnati, boy, that race getting a lot tighter. San Francisco already a winner today.
Joe Torre's going to the mound. Tom Niedenfuhr has been warming up, and the Mets had 2 right-handed pinch hitters in Mario Diaz and Tim Tuffle. Diaz had already been announced for Tom O'Malley, so that'll be all for Daly. Niedenfuhr will come in for the Cardinals, and we'll be back to Busch Stadium after this. Stadium in St. Louis, and the Mets coming up for their last chance, trailing 7-3 in the 9th inning. They announced Mario Diaz is a pinch hitter for Tom O'Malley, and so Joe Torre has gone to his right-hander Tom Niedenfuhr, who has made more appearances than any other right-hander on the Cardinals this year. Former Dodger. Tim Tuffle is on deck. First pitch in for a strike.
Yeah, with that 4-run lead, Joe Torre could give Lee Smith a day off if Niedenfuhr does the job, and right-handers are hitting just a .194 off Niedenfuhr, so he's got the advantage right now.
Breaking ball misses. 1-1. Dave Collins has gone in to replace Pedro Guerrero at first base for the Cardinals. Guerrero did his job today and did it well at the plate with a 2-run home run. Ground ball, shortstop, big hop for Ozzie Smith, and there's 1 gone. 1 away in the Met ninth. Tonight on CBS begins with Paradise, followed by Beauty and the Beast, and then Tour of Duty. That's all coming up tonight on CBS. So Niedenfuhr gets the first out, and Tim Tuffle will be pinch hitting now for the pitcher Wally Whitehurst. Tuffle with the home run with 2 out against the Expos this week in the 9th that sent it into extra innings, and the Mets ended up winning. Tuffle hitting .240, 3 homers and 12 runs batted in. Fouls it off for a strike. In the Cardinal bullpen, left-hander Frank DiPino.
Just in case. Niedenfuhr's had great success against right-hand hitters, but if this lineup turns around, there's a few lefties coming up, so Joe Torre wants someone ready.
Top of the order is on deck. 1 ball and 1 strike the count to Tuffle. Howard Johnson waiting to hit. Niedenfuhr with his first National League save since '87 against the Expos. Now it's 2 balls and a strike to Tuffle. Joe Torre, 1-1 as a manager. And that misses. 3 balls and a strike to Tuffle. 2 managers.
Another advantage for Joe Torre being down in the dugout. You notice he didn't shave this morning. See, he'd have to get ready and shave, get cleaned up for when he was in the booth. Now he can have that rough look.
The way he likes it. On the corner, and the count is full 3-2. Tom Niedenfuhr, the third Cardinal pitcher of the day. Ken Hill started, then Ken Daly worked an inning and 2/3. Here's the 3-2 pitch, and a fly ball hit deep to left field. Hudler is going back, looking up, and it's in the upper deck, and a home run for Tim Tuffle. And does he have the home run stroke this week? And it's a 7-4 ball game. And the boos emanating from the 43,750.
Wow, this one not quite as dramatic as the one he threw when he was in a Dodger uniform. That helped the Cardinals when Jack Clark hit it. But here's Tim Tuffle. The other night with 2 out in the ninth, he hit one to tie the game for the Mets. Here he just gets your basic fastball. It gets the Mets within 3 right here in the top of the ninth.
Still only 1 out. But for the Cardinals, the break is that there's nobody on base. And Howard Johnson, who was 1 for 4 with a double to left. Takes ball 1. That was Tuffle's 4th homer and 13th RBI this year, and his 2nd pinch hit home run of this season. So the Mets hang in there, trailing 7-4. And Niedenfuhr falls behind 2-0.
So you're never as comfortable against a team like the Mets with a 3-run lead as if the Mets had the lead, because they got that home run power. So Joe Torre and Tom Niedenfuhr and the Cardinal pitchers a little bit edgy when you look down that lineup and you see a Darryl Strawberry about to come up in a couple more at bats.
Ken Hill worked 6 1/3 innings. He is the pitcher of record for the Cardinals. 2-0 pitch, and it misses inside. 3 balls and no strikes. Dave Magadan is on deck. Greg Jeffries to follow. DePino, the left-hander, has been warming up for Joe Torre in the Cardinal bullpen. 3-0 pitch, taking all the way. Strike 1.
That's one of the decisions Joe said that was a little different in broadcasting. He says just what you said, who's ready. But now as a manager, you've got to start thinking about, when do I bring them in? When do I make the move? A little different mindset.
Fastball in for strike 2. He took out Ken Hill with Magadan aboard in the 7th inning with the count 2-0, and even though Daly gave up a base hit, basically got out of some real trouble. Niedenfuhr with the 3-2 pitch. Fly ball. Foul out of play. The coordinating producer of Major League Baseball on CBS is Rick LaCivita. Today's telecast was produced by Bob Dekas and directed by Bob Fishman. The pregame show was produced by Ed Gorin and directed by Kathy Pareto. The senior producer of CBS Sports is David Winter, and the executive producer of CBS Sports is Ted Shaker. Again, the 3-2 pitch. Line drive, right field. Maybe trouble coming on over, and that's foul. But you'd have to say that Howard Johnson has a bead on Niedenfuhr's fastball.
Wow, this is an ideal situation for Howard Johnson. He's licking his chops. I mean, 7-4 ball game. Tom Niedenfuhr on the mound. He knows Niedenfuhr's not going to gamble and throw him a breaking ball, take a chance on walking him. So he's just sitting back there, guessing fastball, getting it, and turning on it.
The Mets have won 8 of their last 11 games. Came in today leading the Pirates by a game. Pittsburgh is at Philadelphia tonight. They've got Neil Heaton, 10-7 working for them. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Again to Howard Johnson. Line drive down the right field line, and this one is going to be a home run over the wall. Just over the wall, just over the 330-foot sign, and Howard Johnson has homered. The 2nd home run of the inning, and the Mets now have creeped to within 3 runs. They get 2 runs at 7-5.
Yeah, little different story with a left-hand hitter in the batter's box for Tom Niedenfuhr. And nobody turns on a fastball better than this man, Howard Johnson. And that's a fun situation if you're a hitter. You say, I know what's coming. Watch how quickly that barrel gets through the hitting zone. I mean, this is about a 2-iron trajectory right into the right field corner. And once again, the Mets are going to have a chance to come back and win this one, but probably getting Strawberry to the plate here, or at least Jeffries in the 9th inning.
Line drive, and it's right over that wall. The 2nd home run this inning, and so Torre has seen enough of Niedenfuhr. Frank DePino will be coming in and will be back. It's tightening up here at Busch. Two Met home runs here in the 9th inning have tightened it for the Cardinals, who lead 7-5. Tom Niedenfuhr gave up home runs to pinch hitter Tim Tuffle and Howard Johnson, back-to-back homers. And now Frank DePino, a left-hander, is in to face Dave Magadan.
DePino's been a survivor in the big leagues and a lot of success for the Cardinals last couple years. 13 wins, but of course timing is so important for a middle reliever. You come into, when you have a winning record as a middle reliever, chances are you've given up somebody else's runs and allowed them to tie the game. But DePino has to get two big outs right here to get the save.
Magadan has a single and a double. 7-5 the score, 2 runs in, 1 out. 1-0 the count to Magadan. DePino has 2 saves this year and a 4-1 record. 33-year-old left-hander from Syracuse, New York. And misses again, 2-0, and we'll have more action in the Cardinal bullpen down the right field line.
Well, one more like this, Joe Torre might want to come back upstairs. I mean, he had last night's game won by a couple, and they got some, blue pits off Lee Smith, but the Mets won the game, and now he's just trying to hang on and piece this thing together with a few relievers.
The 2-0 is in there for a strike. He may want to come back to the booth before this game is over. Scott Terry, right-hander, tossing in the Cardinal bullpen. There's Terry. DePino is the 4th Cardinal pitcher of the day. Two-one pitches inside, 3-1, and so Joe Torre doing everything he can not to go to Lee Smith today. Cardinals led 5-3 and then 7-3 with 2 runs in the 8th inning, but the Mets have come back with 2 home runs here in the 9th inning. In for the strike, 3-2 now to Magadan.
I'll just see if Lee Smith, looks like he's got his spikes on. If Joe Torre says to a short reliever, I'm going to give you the day off, put your dugout loungers on and go down there, there's no chance of him getting up, but he's got his battle gear on. He'd be called on if they needed 1 out.
3-2 pitch, ball 4. And now the tying run will come to the plate. Greg Jeffries and Darryl Strawberry will be on deck. You'll find that teams that win normally have several heroic finishes, and the Mets have had 2 of them in the last week. And maybe staging another one here. Who knows?
Yeah, they're getting a team that, boy, is at their vulnerable area. I mean, the good starting pitching, and they miss Todd Worrell, who's out with elbow surgery. He may be back next year. They've got the good closer in Lee Smith, but these guys in the middle just have not been able to get it done consistently for them this year.
Greg Jeffries, batting right-handed for the 2nd time, started the game off as a left-handed hitter against Ken Hill. He is 1 for 3 with a single and a sacrifice fly, and has driven home 2 runs. And a high fly ball left field. Hudler was playing in to begin with. Pop up, and Ozzie Smith goes back and makes the catch for out number 2. So now the Mets are down to their last out. But a man they'd rather have up there than anyone else against any kind of pitcher, Darryl Strawberry, coming to the plate.
Yeah, and Joe Torre would rather have Lee Smith pitching to Darryl Strawberry, but in this situation he's going to give the ball to DePino, and I think this is one of those situations we talked about where Joe's going to sit back, watch the guys perform, and find out which ones are going to be his guys for next year. That has become such an important part of putting a winning team together, is the middle relief. I know some baseball fans get tired of hearing the setup man, but those are such important guys on a pitching staff these days.
So it's up to Strawberry here, who has a double and 4 trips to the plate. 26 home runs coming into the game. 7-5 to score, and there's a line drive hit to right field. Milt Thompson is there, makes the catch, and the ball game is over. The Mets threaten, but fall short. And the Cardinals win it 7-5, and Frank DePino will pick up a save. And the Chevrolet player of the game is Terry Pendleton. Made a fine play in the field, but he swung the big bat with the bases loaded double, driving in 3 runs in the 6th inning that put the Cardinals ahead to stay. So Cardinal third baseman Terry Pendleton, Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in his behalf to the Special Olympics. So the Cardinals 7-10-0, the Mets 5-12-0. Gooden winning streak ends at 9.
Today's game has been brought to you by Toyota's quality line of cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. HBO, simply the best. And by the great taste that's a home run every time, it's Diet Pepsi, the right one.
For Greg Gumbel and Jim Kaat, I'm Dick Stockton saying so long from Busch Stadium. The final score, the Cardinals 7 and the Mets 5. You've been watching Major League Baseball on CBS Sports, home of the League Championship Series. So long, everybody.